just going to do this for you. Hawaii, yes, I will. Just
All right, to all applicants and
Let's do it.
We have reached quorum. We have all 4 commissioners, and whenever Commissioner Masudi is ready, we can begin the hearing.
Get this thing out.
Oh, and before we start, Commissioner Masudi, the new material, or not new materials, new business, apologies, for the bylaw update, as discussed during the business meeting, we were discussing putting it after the out of the box on public forum, if that's still all right with the commissioners.
Oh, yeah, sure. You mean before the regular agenda?
Not before the regular agenda, just after the public forum items have been discussed, just to move it up on the agenda.
Gotcha. Sounds great. Sorry, what's going there?
Oh,
Oh, the bylaws.
Bylaw update
Amendment. That's okay.
under new business.
Works for me. All right, sounds great. Let's call the Italian Village Commission to order for May 9th, 2023. Our next business meeting will be Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at noon here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. The next month's hearing will be Tuesday, June 2nd, 2023 at 4 p.m. here in the same room. Let me swear in the staff. If you raise your right hand, state your name for the record.
Of course. Morgan Grant.
And do you promise to tell the truth and testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon and evening?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's go through the commissioners. We'll start down.
Shannon Fergus.
Ben Goodwin.
Jason Sudi.
David Cook.
Okay, let's see, what else do we have today? Do you want to do any approvals before we do the public forum as far as the minutes or anything, just to get it out of the way?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do the minutes and then we'll get back and we'll do staff approvals after the forum. So to approve. Second. Oh, I'm sorry, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes from April 11th are approved. And then we'll just get into staff approvals then after the public forums. So with that, I will turn it over to staff and we can get rolling.
All right. First item on public forum is zone-in update to be delivered by Porter Village.
Hey,
Hello, sir.
how y'all doing?
Well,
I'm Mark Travillis, Planning Division Administrator, and Commissioners, appreciate the time. I'm just going to spend a few minutes to give an update on the city's effort to update the zoning code, which is being called Zone In. And I think I've got few minutes of just highlights to hit, but jump in at any point with any questions or comments. I don't need to tell you all that the city's growing. There's been tremendous amount of growth and there's going to continue to be such growth in the next generation. And the city's responding with a variety of efforts, including the housing strategy, Link Us, sustainability planning, and Zone In, the effort to modernize the zoning code, which hasn't been comprehensively updated for 70 years. There was a 2021 assessment where the city hired out consultants, and they indeed confirmed that the zoning code does not support the community's aspiration to be an equitable, thriving city. And both Mayor Ginther and City Council have consistently provided their support and indicated this a priority to update the zoning code. So it's underway, as hopefully you know by now. We are starting on the city's primary corridor. So where to start was a big question. It's a huge project, it's a huge city, and the determination was that really the place to start are Columbus's quote unquote main streets. And through analysis, we identified really 62 primary main street corridors and primary shopping centers. That'll be the starting point. It's the most logical place to accommodate growth in a sustainable, equitable way. So that's where we're at right now, and this is rolling out. Just to hit a couple of points, the corridors are, again, critical to supporting thoughtful, equitable growth, but they're not delivering the results that really the city needs. And analysis have indicated that there's about 145 miles of these areas that we're talking about. And in 80% of the case, the height limit is 35 feet. So, this is made our high street 35. I don't need to tell you all 35-foot height limit. 80% of these areas also housing is either not permitted on the ground floor or not permitted at all. So while we're accommodating, you all know, intensity on High Street in some areas in recent years, it's the zoning does not allow for the development that is really recommended through studies and best practices and so forth. So all these challenges point to the fact that the zoning code is inhibiting housing creation and not allowing the city to be aspired or to be what we aspired. So just a couple of notes on how these areas were identified. Staff went through and looked at existing zoning, commercial overlays, areas that are recommended for mixed use in adopted area plans, current CODA routes, future link us routes, and other site-specific information to get to the 62 priority areas that are being rolled out right now. And then to wrap up where we're at in the process, so these areas being identified was a really important step, but how to approach the update of the zoning in those areas is not yet be determined. So this is now the city, we're hitting all the area commissions and architectural review commissions and a variety of bodies in order to say, this is when we need people to engage. You're holding a report, and those in the audience have a postcard that provides links to the project's website. The easiest way to get there is to Google Zoning Columbus, and it's the site that'll come up. And if you haven't already, please sign up for email updates. And we're looking for you all to invite any and everybody to participate. There was a community meeting last week at the Reeb Center, tomorrow night in Whetstone and Clintonville. There's a couple other coming up here, Mideast area. In May and in June, some particular focus series. So if you can come in person, there's a webinar that Kevin Wheeler gave that's on the project website. So there's opportunities now. We're just really looking for folks to plug in. And that's the quick summary. You know, happy to take any questions. But most importantly, again, please, join in.
Yeah, just real quickly, thanks for coming in, Mark. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Specifically for our commission, it's pretty clear, I think, on this map that it's 4th, 5th, and High Street.
Yeah, you are.
I just want to verify.
Surrounded, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. No, you indeed, right. And you've been living it obviously for years now. So those are exactly the areas that are being noted as a priority to indeed update the zoning code in your area.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. I just want to kind of point out that for all of us, it's kind of, when you look at it, it's really us, the area just north of Grandview, parts of Franklinton, and then parts just east of downtown are probably the heaviest concentration of this first rollout. So I think that's exciting for us that we get to see these changes come maybe a little earlier than the rest of the city. And
Yes.
Nice opportunity.
Totally agree. Kevin, I think, give him a call at any point to share thoughts, talk to anybody in planning staff or your staff here. Because for the reason you just said, Jason and others, we're going to need to be working with you guys. Yeah.
For sure. We'll go around the table real quick and see what specific questions everybody has. Shannon, anything you want to talk
I
about?
guess I have two questions. One is the residential areas surrounding the priority corridors. Are those priority corridors just informing kind of the district you're looking at? Or are you truly only focusing updates on the corridors? And then second, schedule timeline of like when we think we might see some draft code, some objectives.
Yeah. So on the residential areas will be follow-up phase, next phase. So right now it is really just like form new zoning districts for these priority areas, step one. And as I should know better, I'm become part of the team to help deliver these points, but I haven't been in the nitty gritty. But I believe the intent is by spring 2024 to actually have districts formed and recommended to council for these priority areas. And then next phase is start to look at the residential areas and the districts there. So that's sort of a general answer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did you have a second one?
Oh, schedule. Well, he
Oh,
answered.
okay.
Yeah. he answered.
It's a two-part question. Yeah.
Yeah, in this district, we've enjoyed an overlay that's allowed certain kind of density and different kind of rules. I'm just kind of curious if some of that is rolling out to these new thinking, because we're seeing new greater density in all parts of the Columbus and these especially these corridors. Question number one, I get a follow up.
So I mean, I think generally the thought is that a revised zoning code should learn from the overlay, like the overlays were really, an indication of a shortcoming of the code as it was. And, is why we were doing it, both in terms of having urban standards and perhaps, generally to incorporate urban standards in areas where suburban development was being forced into the urban area. And that a revised code should just make that part of the general standards of the zoning code, that we won't necessarily need, we should incorporate those standards into the base zoning. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not.
Well, you acknowledge that there is a difference between what we're seeing and what is appropriate for suburban sort of development. And I'm just kind of curious if the team has noticed that and is probably going to apply the same kind of density ideas to these new corridors that we're talking about in this phase one.
I think it's, to be determined. I think, staff and I think the consultant team are really tempering themselves, from projecting too much, because we want to do this engagement, hear from folks and all that stuff. But I think that there's some general notions of what we have now is not functioning, and that really needs to be more responsive to the environment in which, the given neighborhood. It needs to accommodate growth. We're gonna, one way or the other, we need to accommodate growth, and the corridors are a good place to start. So all that sort of computes to, design standards that I think are, reflective of the type of work that you all have been doing for decades. If that, so again, we're trying not to, think ahead too much, but consultant team is developing these series of what they call place types. They've been doing a lot of analysis on all these corridors, what's in place now, as to create sort of baseline data. And then we'll be marrying that with, policy objectives and neighborhood engagement in order to, come up with a formula that works.
Well, two things that are kind of related to that. One is, one of the things that hits us around here is just that we are constantly passing variances based on parking. And so I just wonder if that's something we're going to continue to do as a overlay, or in supporting these variances, or there's going to be a point where it's obvious that in certain zones, you don't have to pass a variance because everybody knows that reduced parking is the norm. And then something that's kind of related is that because it's automotive, or we'll say that automotive space, is that often the corridors themselves are forgotten for the structure, the zoning codes, required for the structures. And what we are sometimes a little bit frustrated by is the lack of any sort of planting and the sort of corridor space, the true corridor, the sort of transportation corridor. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be on the list, talking about it's not just curbs and buildings and widths of roads, but also the softscape as well.
No, absolutely. And I think these are the things that, we will be, I'm going to make notes now, to deliver. That's part of what we're doing here is, what matters to you all. And that again, that the more you engage in those topics to make sure they stay on the list, but they are on the list, parking and, landscaping, trees in the corridors. In particular, if we're going to accommodate growth in corridors and we think they need to be livable places, if we're going to see more and more population living there, then they need to be livable. And part of livability is to green them up to the degree possible. So absolutely.
I'm just going to throw in one of our pet peeves we spoke about the other day, and that's just how signposts and other objects land indiscriminately in the walk space. So if there can be sort of a notice towards proper planning and how things land in the walk space, if they're required, maybe figure out ways to get standardized posts so that, several things can be connected to the same post. But
I hear you.
David?
I don't have anything that we need to get into tonight.
Okay, just the one comment, and going to hold you to any kind of answer because I know it's extremely early in the process. We've got a couple overlying documents that we use in order to kind of manage the process here. Do you have a sense of what happens after the code? And again, I'm not going to hold you to anything, but we've got design guidelines for the whole district. We've got
Right.
design guidelines for the short north.
Right,
What do you
right.
think is the next iteration was supposed adopted?
I mean, that's, can we go and like, let's knock that one out. Let's go knock that one out right now. I'm joking. I don't know. We think about it a lot. What is the future of planning after an updated zoning code? And I will say personally, and this is just really me personally, but in what I've been telling everybody in the planning division is we need to get an updated zoning code and then our future planning needs to sync up with it.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that we know there's a need for future planning, both in regard to land use and design.
Yeah.
And consistent set of documents that you all could use. There's a little bit of, we're going to wait to see what our really end target is in regard to zoning districts. So I will just say it's on our agenda and we're stewing over it and hopefully over the next year until we begin to get a more clear path.
Fair enough.
How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
We'll keep going as we've been going.
Yes, thank
See
you.
where we're
Right,
at.
don't stop. Right, we're counting on you guys. All right.
All right, thanks for coming in. We really
Thanks for the
appreciate it.
time. All right, see y'all later.
Are you trying to list us for the
Yeah, it's,
high three, fourth or second?
All right. If the commission's ready to move on to our next public forum item.
sounds good. Let's do it.
This one is out of the box installation for the Short North Arts District.
All right. What do we have today?
Hello. Good, how are you?
Great. What do you have for us today?
Just a courtesy application / note that we are doing electrical box vinyl coverings, all of which are primarily in the Victorian Village area, but wanted to put it on your radar. I know there are a couple of electrical boxes that are on the Italian Village side, but as of now, the ones that we are allowed to wrap per city are on the Victorian Village side. But if we ever get, because I know there's some desire to have them wrapped on the Italian Village side, if we ever get that far, we will gladly jump on that opportunity. So
Gotcha. Are you allowed to wrap them because those are the ones you applied for or because there's some other reason?
because they are, to my understanding, it's because they are a certain type of electrical box.
Oh, gotcha.
That like they don't let us wrap all of the ones that they have to have constant use for and stuff like that. So they let us wrap certain ones that they can still access, but that they're not in all the time. That's how I understand it.
All right, well, let's talk through this, Dave.
We've had a little discussion. I hope you would promote the Italian Village ones because right now they're receiving graffiti. So this would be far better than to have, many of them are on residential streets, you know, for sure.
Absolutely.
Corridors.
Ben, your thoughts?
I'm just curious how you select the art that involves a committee or.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so we released all of our we have simultaneously 5 artist calls out. They've since closed. We received over 160 applications for those 5 projects from like 75-ish unique artists, which is more than we've ever received for any group of calls.
Boxes.
Yeah, so that's Summer Spray, this, and then our 3 other projects for Italian Village. So then we got together with the Short North Public Art Committee meeting and we reviewed all of those applications. We selected 14 artists for the 14 boxes and then we go to them and we tell them, okay, you are being selected, now put forth a proposal that's unique to this site. We will assign them a specific box so that they can consider what's around that box. And then they'll submit that back to the committee and the committee will review.
Sounds like a good process and I'm supportive of what it's turned out to be.
Yeah,
Not in
thank
our
you.
district yet, but we said.
Thank you.
Jan, what do you have?
Nothing.
All right, great. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
We
thanks.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get back to the case agenda.
Before we do,
Oh, there's one.
not one
Oh, yeah,
more, but the new
bylaws,
business, the
yes.
bylaws, yeah. So we'll just move that out there, then we'll begin with cases. Thank you.
Hey,
Hi. So just for the record, I'm Kimberly Bernard Sheehy. I'm the Deputy Historic Preservation Officer. And I have been tasked with updating the bylaws. So planning's first step in this effort is to review and update the quorum requirements. Any updated language will be written to ensure clarity and the ability of each board and commission to conduct business in the case that it has vacancies. In recent years, planning has focused on recruiting commissioners to help ensure that all commissioners are seated at full capacity, but there are still times when multiple vacancies can occur. The proposed updated form language will help assure that all boards and commissions are able to conduct business in a legally defensible manner and will create additional consistencies between all boards and commission. And Italian's current bylaws regarding the quorum states that 4 members shall constitute a quorum. Affirmative action on any issue requires a simple majority of those present. Ability of the commission to operate determined by quorum may be modified with cause as defined by the chairman. The proposed quorum update for the bylaws is consistent with Columbus City Code, section 3119.07. The commission shall take official action only by a majority of the members voting on the question on the table during a public meeting at which there is a quorum. A quorum exists when a majority of the members appointed to and serving the commission are present at the meeting. When a quorum is lacking, no business can be acted upon other than to adjourn the meeting. And this is just supposed to be the first reading.
yeah.
So do we have any questions?
So just to clarify, well, first of all, I appreciate that you are stripping this undefined power that I didn't know I had, but would not know how to exercise. So that is a good thing. The second thing is more to the question. I just want to make sure that I understand. So this is saying that, like, just say hypothetically, so we are supposed to have 7 members. If we only have 5 at that time that are appointed, then a quorum would become 3.
Yes.
Okay, and then also, this doesn't change any fact that if we have people abstain, as long as there was a quorum initially, then it's a majority of whoever's remaining to vote.
Yes.
Okay, that's all. Sounds good to me. So other questions?
No, that second question was one of my questions. So one of us can step out right now and we still have a.
Yes, you still have a quorum.
And I'm glad you clarified that part about if the whole commission's not seated, that the
Right.
quorum changes. I did not understand that.
Do you happen to know if even number, like 50% is a quorum? So, because usually we only have like,
It would need to be 51%.
So-
So it's the majority. So typically if it was 4 people, it would need to be 3.
yeah, okay, because
Unless-
usually since we're 7, if we're usually not down to 5, we're usually down to 6, so we'd still need to get 4 of the 6. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we'd prefer everybody to be fully seated at 7, but you
Yeah.
know, sometimes that doesn't always happen.
Yep, that is for sure. Okay, so what's the process then that happens if we just hear it today, do we take any action or?
No, you'll take action at the next one, which it'll probably be a more condensed version of me just reading off what it was and what we want it to be and then voting on it.
And then do we have the ability to amend our own bylaws without any further action, or does it go to council or something like that, or?
I don't have an answer to that question.
I don't really.
I don't believe it goes to council, but I'm also not 100% positive.
Okay, probably not, but I was just wondering. Do you have anything else? I'm sorry.
It is absolutely on this, but at one time, having sat on this committee or on this panel for a number of years, at one time, it used to have an attorney, it used to have an architect, it used to have one representative from the Italian Village Society, et cetera, and more for the society. Are they using those guidelines in selecting new commissioners?
I believe so. I'm not part of the selection of commissioners process. I've just been looking at the bylaws, so I know that's in the bylaws, and as far as I know, that's still being used. In some of the commissions, there's a little bit of flexibility of what kind of professions are a guideline as opposed to it needs to follow everybody. And I don't remember off the top of my head if Italians is just kind of the guidelines or if it needs to have, you know, the attorney and the architect and
Be
It's
interested
all
in
one bowl now, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
For Italian, it's all one bowl.
But I think it's like, I think there is a suggested set of professions, right? But they're all in one.
Yeah. But like, I think it's University District and like East Franklinton. And probably that new one that got created that like covers New Albany or something, like Ulster, I don't know. that has zoning power, they need an attorney. We don't have any power. for zoning.
We used to have it.
Well, I think we still could only recommend
Yeah.
variance approvals. We could never actually approve variance.
Okay,
So,
let's go on.
All right, well, thank you all.
thank you,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
See you again.
But we don't need to take any action on this ourselves as a commission.
We will not.
It's just a first reading.
Yes.
Eventually.
But it will be our action to add it to the bylaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are going to go to staff approvals. And let me see where those start.
Page 5, it should be.
Yeah, okay. So first, can I have a motion on staff approved applications?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I'll vote on those and then I'll go back for extensions. So all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And I'll go for extensions, 98 to 100 Warren Street, 186 to 188 East First, 288 East Fourth, 638 to 642 North High, 843 Summit, 30 East Fourth, 45 to 47 East First. A lot this one. 25 North Fourth. Right, and still 825 North Fourth, then 853 Summit.
I should abstain from that.
Okay, so one abstention from Ben on 853, and then 976 North High. Any other ones?
I have to abstain from 186 to 188 first.
Oh, one, okay, one.
By the way, as an update, it was already done.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other ones? Okay, Steph, you have all those then?
Yes, I do.
All right, so jumping back to the applications, the first one is been moved to staff approval, so that gets us to the second application, which is 281 to 289 Detroit Avenue, IB-23-20-04-013. You guys sworn in, since you get settled down there. You'll both raise your right hand and then state your name, record.
Tom O'Brien.
Carrick Cheryl. And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So Steph.
For 281, 289 Detroit Avenue, proposed work description. Application is in response to a code violation. The changes include the first floor elevation was to be 24 inches above final grade. The as-built is 43 inches above finished grade. Foundation wall was to be constructed with 4-inch by 16-inch design block, smooth finish. The as-built is split face, 8-inch by 16-inch, requesting approval as constructed. The exterior wall covering was to be brick veneer. Fiber cement board has been installed. This item was previously approved in June 2021. The window sills are to be 5-inch tall cast stone sills. This was also part of the June 2021 approval. The front steps and handrails, height and style do not comply with the COA, requesting approval to turn the stairs as needed in the submitted materials. The upper handrail has not been installed. They're requesting approval as constructed for those to be removed. The front door does not comply with COA. Applicant believes the door as constructed does comply with the original COA and was revised in the June 2021 COA. The window sills or style replacement do not comply with the COA. Applicants requesting approval as constructed. The garage door does not conform to the COA. This item was previously approved at the June 2021 hearing. And the front steps are not code compliant. They're proposing to remove concrete portion at the face of the building and install new stacked stone retaining wall and new plantings between face of building and retaining wall. Staff analysis, the following is taken from the unapproved April 11th, 2023 Town Village Commission meeting minutes. Commissioner comments are included in the staff report. Does the commission want me to read any of the minutes from that meeting?
Okay, anybody else here?
Nope.
I'm going to move on to the business meeting comments. Commissioner noted that there has been a landscaping improvement. Requested applicant to clarify the material being used as well as interlocking fasteners for the proposed retaining wall. Also to clarify the approach to construction. Commissioners were requesting to schedule a site visit with Commissioner Sudi and Goodman volunteering to come with HPO staff. They requested a full site plan as well. Commissioner Goodman would still recommend a different approach to the opening instead of the turned stair, maybe a new entrance. Commissioners would like to verify the dimension of the stair in relation to the sidewalk and may not be acceptable. Commissioners had additional questions about the windows. HBO staff informed the commission that the windows are the approved Pella Impervia product, but the windows that are currently installed are the grill between glass, GBG, and not the simulated divided light SDL that is on the approved windows list. They requested staff to see if the whole window unit would need to be replaced or if the glass portion could be removed and changed to have the SDL. There was a site visit scheduled and conducted on May 3rd between HBO staff, Commissioner Sudi and Commissioner Goodman, owner and applicant. Commissioner Goodman requested additional information on the retaining wall and for the applicant to include a more detailed elevation drawing of the wall, including a section drawing to better understand the construction in relation to the grading. Additionally, staff noted the faux grain vertical siding that has been installed on the property. Siding appeared to be composed of metal when the original siding approved was to be a composite wood material. Staff recommends approval of application IV 2304-010 as submitted with any all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate with conditions. Conditions include installing the appropriate SDL simulated divided light for the Pella Impervia windows, paint the inappropriate faux grain metal siding to match the color that is currently there to give the smooth finish per codes and guidelines, installation of the low grade garden retaining wall on the facade facing Detroit Avenue, and for all final materials and drawings to be submitted to HBO staff. Basis of staff recommendation is 311604, certificate required, 311612, standard for new construction, and 311613, standards for site improvements.
All right, great, thanks. So over to you.
I know that Commissioner Goodman and Sudi met us at the site, so how much do the other two commissioners kind of want us to review the additional material that we provided over the last month, as well as kind of what was discussed at the site? I can do the best I can to summarize.
Do you two want to give an overview of the site visit?
I'd rather hear from the commissioners.
Yes.
All right, I think the main reason we wanted to get to the site is because of this elevation above grade. The two other major topics were talked about, windows and siding material. We did not talk about the rail at the top of the parapet, but circling back around to the way the stoop works and the height of the building above the grade, we discussed how a couple things could happen to, well, first of all, I believe that we've discovered that there's enough clearance to execute a stoop with steps turned sideways and to allow 3 feet of clearance between that stoop and the curb. That was I think, a major issue for me, and I think for a lot of us. I felt, although I need to see the sort of detailed drawing to make sure that we have that clearance, it seemed conceptually that we were able to have that successfully implemented.
Yes.
So beyond that, there were a couple things that were discussed. One was that just because we could turn the steps and have those clearances doesn't relieve the applicant and the architect of using appropriate architectural materials so that it feels like it belongs to the community per the guidelines. So that would be up to you guys to help us sort out. And along the way, we discovered that by building a planter curb that roughly matched the height of an adjacent property retaining wall, that we were able to do two things. One was to reduce the optics of how high the building thrusts itself out of the ground relative to the curb, to the sidewalk, and also provide a little bit of neighborhood context, or reason. So in other words, the adjacent property has a retaining wall. The applicant is saying, let's extend this kind of datum and some hardscape characteristics of that. and perhaps it's a win-win. So that is my assessment of what happened that day, and I think it's up to the other commissioners present to decide whether that feels like a win, and if the materials, including the rail and the textured block and that kind of stuff, feel like the right thing for this street.
Yeah, that's 100% right. The one thing I will say is if you look at the drawing in there that's now, it's called revised, page 6. I think it's pretty close to what we had discussed out there. I think the one thing that we talked about is maintaining a consistent datum at the third block down, which it appears to do for that building, and then it seems to kind of reset a little bit for the second building. So I think one of the issues in my mind would be just to make sure that that datum line continues and doesn't sort of drop back down at the second building, because the idea was that it was supposed to relieve the height of that building, in particular on the one that was further to the west. So that will probably mean that the end of the wall will get a little taller than the adjacent wall. That's okay, because frankly, the adjacent wall is a dilapidated hunk of concrete. We were just using that as a reference point for where the right spot would be to have a wall. Not that we're trying to like augment the beauty of this very old falling apart curve that used to be there. So
By right spot elevation or setback?
no, setback. I mean, it's probably going to be a little taller, and that's okay. You can just, make that up with minor grading. It's not going to be a lot taller. It's going to be some net inches taller. So, and then the second thing is there was a discussion that we had over what the material should be. They proposed dry laid stone. My concern is I think as that wall gets larger, we're going to have to do some pretty significant tiebacks in order for it not to have the same problem we've seen all over the neighborhood.
Driveway is unacceptable.
That's what I was feeling. So we had actually talked about the potential for a board curb due to the contemporary nature of this building, and wanted to get the feedback of the other commissioners on that. So those are the kind of the major issues, I think. We talked about the door on the back. Everybody seemed to agree that it was fine. It was in a kind of an unusual location. We all seemed to come to a consensus that if they put the applied window mullions over top of these, while not ideal, that's still acceptable. We really didn't feel strong about the parapet. The last remaining piece was the material for this corner, which is like a wood grain, a faux wood grain paneling, which wasn't originally part of it. So I think we have to have further discussion about that. So that's my take. Anything else that you can remember?
Well, I didn't remember being okay with, what's the second item? I thought we were talking about window replacements instead of just applications of.
That's not what we were talking about out there, but
Yeah, so originally what we were discussing, Commissioner Cook asked if there was a possibility of taking the glazing out of the frame and putting in the simulated divided lights. I'm not sure if the applicant has additional information. That was slightly discussed at the site visit of it being possible. I wasn't sure if there's any additional.
Yeah, we reached out to the manufacturer, and there is a field applied SDL that can be placed on the sash without removing the glass.
Sash.
The sash being the
So those.
yeah, that would match what is also between the glass. So
So
it's
it'll just be on top of it from the outside.
which is not dissimilar from what the SDL is.
I mean, it's not ideal.
Okay, I didn't understand.
It's on the Smith Brothers that were at work.
Yeah.
And
It's not terrible.
is that paintable or is that?
I believe it would be the same factory finish as the frame.
To black.
Yes.
Or well, that, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence on that one.
Can we split this?
Oh, we can split it all. That's right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we would certainly prefer a split as well. One of the things that we certainly want to get out of this particular meeting is kind of an approval on the orientation of the stairs. That is holding up TCO for the buildings, all other inspections have been completed and approved, and so the remaining item is these front stairs for TCO, which involves loan closings, et cetera. So if part A could be the orientation of the stairs, continued conversations about retaining wall material could continue or could move forward. I mean, I'd obviously like to resolve as much as we can this evening, but certainly the most pressing issue for this project is the orientation of the stairs. Just in response to some of the things that were discussed and presented by Commissioner Goodman, we kind of walked the neighborhood afterward, and with regard to the material of the retaining wall, we feel like most of or all of the retaining walls that have been installed on that block within the last decade are all some kind of stone material. I don't know the installation method. We can certainly talk about whether that's adhered or dry stack or whatever, but the aesthetic of them is all stone. One would assume that should the adjacent property, which has the last remaining poured wall, ever get renovated, that poured wall would be removed, and it's likely that they would look at what their neighbors have and on that block and propose also a stone type of material. So that is kind of why we kept the stone material on the drawing after our meeting and discussion. Just part of what we talked about. The revised drawing does show we pulled back the east building stair a little bit in order to maintain the 3-foot sidewalk. The top of wall is noted on the drawings. It does step up at the eastern building. I felt like we wanted to maintain a wall along the whole frontage. So it's 5 inches on the far east side and 14 inches on the far west side. If the commission's okay with raising that up to be more a little bit closer to the existing grade, then we would be able to match the wall heights across the whole.
It's
front.
a datum. I mean, that's the whole fundamental aspect of the design.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't, whatever other words you just said don't make any sense to me. The whole point is we want it to be at the third riser down in order to accomplish the 2 things we talked about. 1, create a cohesive streetscape, and 2, diminish the feel of the height of the building coming out. And
Right.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Right.
So
Yes.
if you misunderstood any of that, that's fine. But whatever you just said, we'll just erase that and we'll go back to it. It's a datum line that goes across, and that is the fundamental aspect of the design.
Sure.
So anything else, no good. I hear what you're saying about stone walls. I'm looking around here. I don't know what walk you took because I can barely find a stone wall, and I can find about 7 or 8 concrete or block walls. I'm not saying that's the right answer. What I'm saying is if you do a stone wall that has a significant height to it, it's almost definitely going to be impossible for us to approve one that is dry laid because it will buckle. And I can show you many examples throughout the neighborhood that have done that almost immediately. So you're going to have to do a very extensive tieback on that, which doesn't seem to make that a practical application. You're going to have to do a concrete curb behind it, or you're going to have to do something. So what we're saying is this wall is going to be a little higher. We haven't even established amongst all of us if we think a curb is the right idea. But you're going to have to do some sort of a material that's not a set of dry laid stones that are going to immediately be pushed out to the sidewalk. So it can be stone, but it can't be those stones,
Okay.
including the one.
Let's make sure that is understood tonight and that we don't talk about this again.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know how many.
No dry laid stone is acceptable.
Yeah, and I mean,
Okay.
it's just seeing
Period.
tons of concrete curves all over this neighborhood. So I mean, you must have taken a very particular route.
I mean, there's,
Let's don't get into
there's-
that. Let's move on to the other issues too. Is that considered a real landscape planning?
I mean, we think we need to get more detail on that.
the
Yeah.
Page 7.
page 7,
Particularly, one of our commission members was absolutely requesting that. And something more than variety, I think you have an opportunity to at least signal these stairways with something of a vertical, different plant material other than these little cartridges that I see drawn on. And I is not considered a full landscape plan.
The page 7.
page 7 identifies the material, the heights, the different varieties of grasses
Okay,
and
was looking at the other page.
and low evergreens and vertical evergreens.
Good, good.
Zero
And
shade.
is existing landscape wall, is it staying or is it to go? The one that's down here in the corner.
That one I believe is staying, correct?
Yes.
Where the window well is.
Yes.
Just for representation for the stacked stone.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think one of the things we'll have to still get to is the termination of that planting bed at the eastern edge. We talked about it outside a little bit, just a little unclear here, so we're gonna have to resolve how that actually terminates. It looks like it just kind of fades off the plan, so it's a little hard to understand.
We just recommend the stairs.
Yes. Call it.
Yes.
And the wall in a material that is not dry stone at a certain height, and they work with you to figure that out, and that just be done.
Yeah, if, of course, if the applicant is amenable to changing the material for the retaining wall, then that would be fine.
I,
I mean, if we would like to split it into the different elements, there's still other materials that we discussed for like the finish, but yeah, I mean, that could be possible. Depending on what the commissioners would
That
like.
gets rid of like quote unquote all landscaping.
I just want to jump on that because what I sometimes get concerned about is that if we approve the thing that the applicant is motivated by, then there's just less motivation to get the other things accomplished. So I don't mean to be a hard ass about that, but I'm concerned about that. And if we do decide to allow certain things to be continued for another meeting, I just want to make sure that we're crystal clear about what this retaining wall and the extent of it are, so that it's not being approved by staff. That's clear here tonight what we're doing. So as this is in my court right now, I would say that I agree with Commissioner Studi that you should discontinue the datum. And this also gives me the opportunity to say that notwithstanding that the stacked stone wall protecting the evacuation of the subgrade window wells might let it go, that the curb should extend across that opening and maintain this datum so that that you end up somewhat capturing some of that planting area and allow it to be just as plantable and behind the same sort of planting wall that we're describing on other parts or on either side of either stoop. So I personally think that the stacked stuff is not appropriate, but if you can accomplish this sort of baseline that creates a visual line in front of it, I think I can live with that. So getting back to what Commissioner Studi is saying, that first of all, I want to say that I think that what we discussed out the field tended to work out, and that you have this last riser that where you turn left and step down to the regular sidewalk. And I see that that's why you were trying to accomplish the same thing on the western stoop. But I think you could probably accomplish it with 2 steps down instead of in some manner, because it's all going to be raised up. Correct? Do we all understand each other there?
I guess the last step will probably be lower, because that'll be just one step up. So I mean, you'd be still lower than the level at the top of the wall.
I'm not sure if I understand it worded perfectly.
I'm not sure if I understood that.
No, I
can't
can't really put any of that.
If you are carrying this datum all the way across, and basically what you're saying is that there are gonna be four riser steps from the top stoop on the west as well as the east. So those two will match. It's just how to mitigate that to the last, to the grade level.
Yeah, I don't think it changes the way the stairs or that last ending work. This is simply between those. It's all the space between those. So it just, whatever the height that wall ends up being is the height it ends up being, but it's still like one rise.
So you're saying this doesn't rise up?
This does, but that doesn't impact the height of this or the stairs or that. You know what I mean?
It's as it goes to either end, it's lowering right now.
So what we're pointing at is that, so first of all, I was saying that this needs to continue.
Correct, yeah.
Follow this datum, and then what Commissioner Sudi is talking about is that terminates there.
Yeah.
And this is up one?
Well, it picks up wherever that data would be, pick it up.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's, and then on the other side too, where it goes down. Like, right,
It's just a straight lines.
Yeah.
I think that it's all drawn properly on each building. It's just that they stepped it down a little bit on the western building, so it just.
Yeah,
needs to
this
rise
is all
up.
down one course.
Yeah.
Down 8 inches from.
Right, needs matched up.
So anyway, I'm just going to throw my weight behind poured concrete because I think that, beside the fact that we discussed how the stone, stack stone is not appropriate, really even stone walls are not exactly the most appropriate. We see a lot more old poured walls falling over as they may be in this neighborhood. I see a lot more of those than we ever saw any sort of stacked stone. So it's not an insincere way of accomplishing it, a wall. And I think it seems like the most appropriate kind of material and architectural solution for this context, given the adjacent property and this building. So I am not in favor of a block built stoop or a stack or stone wall, retaining wall for the for the third course line.
Yeah.
And again, just to repeat that the course line, the height of the wall should extend across the opening between the two buildings.
do you want to make a motion for all of them?
Is that generally feeling like it's
That's
in the right direction?
That sounds great.
Okay. And in general, okay, so on application application IV-23-04-013, 281 and 289 Detroit Avenue. I move that the applicant, we're gonna make this an A.
That is going, yes, and that's gonna be retaining wall.
And this is going to be pertaining to the stoop, its orientation, and its materials, and its partner retaining,
In the landscaping.
and the landscaping. Well, let me get to that in a second. Generally speaking, we're talking about the Detroit elevation. So let's talk about that. So that the configuration of the stoop with the steps turning towards the east, with its footprint allowing both clearance of 3 feet, minimum 3 feet between it and the curb, and a minimum of 3 feet between its edge and the building, is an appropriate solution as presented here, that we understand is presented here tonight is appropriate. But that the wall, retaining wall, that's being illustrated needs to be continuous across the elevation at the third course, which is to say that it's correct on the east building, but needs to be raised on the west building. And that datum height and retaining curb wall, whatever we're going to call a planter wall, does cover the gap between the two buildings as well. And that we understand that the applicant will proceed with a poured-in-place concrete treatment that would be most appropriate for the building and have some relationship to the neighborhood fabric context.
And you're okay with staff review or consult us if they have no further questions?
Yes.
And you're okay with that?
Yes, before we continue though, is the applicant, considering amending the application based off these conditions?
Yes, we're, find a consistent top of wall across the frontage. Okay, starting at, what I've measured as 5 inches above the grade on the eastern side, matching the third course down from the eastern building. So that will be the datum point of the top of wall across the whole frontage. The material of the wall will be poured concrete. The face of the stoop will also be poured concrete. I'm asking that as a question.
That's my proposal and my motion.
We're amenable to that as well.
Yeah, and I think working with staff to, determine the proper finish.
I think, I mean, generally speaking, I don't think that's a broom kind of finish. I think it's a modernist kind of smooth finish that would be appropriate for that building. I do actually think that it would be appropriate for staff to, well, I think that the applicant should submit a sketch pursuant to that description to make sure that we're all on the same page for staff review.
Sure.
Do you
And
want
that staff should probably submit that to Jason or I, just to make sure that we're talking the same language.
that's my question. So you want to do a subcommittee for that specifically for the stoop and the wall?
I think that we should.
Yeah, and if you're okay with the amendment to that, just that should include, a plan of the terminus of that planting bed at the far eastern end, because right now the planet just kind of fades away. So we have to understand what that does, there has to be some edge to that planting bed. We just don't know where it is.
Yeah, good point. I didn't include that in the motion, and I agree that that's kind of an important detail.
Can you include landscaping?
Yeah, that's what I'm actually, do you want to approve landscaping as we see it tonight, or do you want to wait until we have other landscapers in the mix to? And how are we feeling about approving the applicant's proposal for a window?
I think it should be
That's
separate. Let's do
yeah.
that separate.
I know, I'm thinking about.
Well, we need to
Making
get
other motions.
through this motion.
Careful.
I think this one's just focused for the wall retaining wall
Indeed.
and good material, yeah. And then before we finalize, which commissioner would like to volunteer for the subcommittee? Would that be Commissioner Goodman or Commissioner Sudi?
You do it. Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, Commissioner Sudi, thank you.
All right, so do I have a second?
Does it include the landscaping?
I don't know, it doesn't include landscaping, but,
This motion does not include landscaping.
okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's all set. So now what's your next motion?
I would like to move to approve the landscaping as presented.
Okay, do I have any discussion on that?
I just knew that Kara was particularly sensitive to this. Fortunately, could not hear this. You're not gonna go buy the plant material right now, so why couldn't this be?
Because I think that it might, all right, I'll wait on that, but I would love to get all of this off our table and not see it next month, personally.
Well, we wish if the building had been built the way it's approved, it wouldn't be here at all.
This is true.
I am.
So do we not have a second on that one? Do we not have a second on that one?
Okay, then I move that we discuss the windows.
Okay.
Well, that we approve
Do you approve the windows?
No, I approve, well, my motion is to approve the insertion of the little bar things that Bella will install on top of the existing windows.
The applied STLs.
Yes, or you know, that they have to take out those windows and put in an approved window, but the windows as stand are not approved.
So I think the applicant is proposing, if I'm not mistaken, to use those applied
Correct.
to solve it. So let's keep that to the motion.
Okay,
And if
so
they
that's
have
my
some
vote.
other solution that they need to do, then they'll have to come back for that.
And did we have a cut sheet on that? We understand what that spec is and,
We do not, so I think from staff's perspective, maybe to possibly continue the window portion until we do have further information about how it is applied and all of that. But that also could be a final drawing submitted to staff for final approval as well, for the window specifically.
What do we want to do? Do we want to wait until they have cut sheet in staff, or do we want to approve it pending staff review?
I think if staff's comfortable with the assessment of that, then we could probably make a motion to approve it with that.
With staff
Yeah.
approval, and if staff's upset with it, doesn't think it's appropriate,
Then
they
we
can
can-
run it back to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
We,
saying to you that I know that there's a project that had applied mullions on it and they have started falling off and breaking. It is
can't do
not a particularly good solution.
Yeah, I mean,
It's an
you're creating a maintenance nightmare for yourself, but
Okay, so
because the simulated divided lights are integrated into the frame of the windows with the initial manufactured frame of them, so this is a little bit different, of course.
we're sheer.
Well, I don't know if I was offering the second and asking for further conversation, but it does seem to me that perhaps that there might be a compromise in there that where some windows on a primary elevation should be replaced as appropriate, and then that maybe this other solution of applied mullions can be used for the
Side.
right.
so the only reason I don't like that approach is because for precedence purposes, we've never, when we run into these situations, we've never allowed people to treat their non-frontage facing windows differently. We've made them do apply the same thing. So if we do that, all of a sudden we are opening ourselves up to this happening.
Well, I mean, first of all, we have done different things on different elevations in the past.
All
I
on the
think,
approved list.
I think we've already maybe let that down the barn, and I actually think it's appropriate to imagine better solutions on the front elevation versus lesser solutions on a secondary elevation, but that's my perspective, and if this is something we don't have consensus on, then we should punt this to the next, when we have more commissioners.
Yes.
Broader conversation.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a lot of disagreement on these windows. We're looking for further discussion after we see these cut sheets. So would you be okay with us continuing that until future meeting?
Yep.
Okay. And then can we move on this rear door? Does anybody have any questions about that?
Before we just do the rear door, just to list a couple of items from the proposed work description. This will need additional approval, even though it was approved back in 2021, they were never finalized with stamps. So this would be, again, kind of approving those materials. So we could go down that list as well with the door that has been added.
So where do we fall on this other simulated wood aluminum material?
Yeah.
That was, where are we currently on that?
So from our record, there was a approved wood composite that was approved for that, and that's the material, the vertical material that's in between those center portions of those guys. Right now, currently, it's a faux grain metal material that has been installed. It doesn't seem to match what was approved from our record, but
The material that was submitted at that point in time was called Fiberon. And Fiberon is a synthetic wood grain material. That was
Oral, or is it more like a cementatious project?
Fiberon is a wood composite.
Like Hardy Bolt.
No, more like Timber Tech or something like that. So it's so the faux wood grain was the design intent, and that's what was submitted. I understand from being on site with Jamie that that's something that he feels shouldn't have been approved.
per codes, so can't remember exactly which one. I probably find it.
Well, I do think that precedent is an issue on this one because it's not this, before it's kind of a dimensional wood-ish kind of product. This is more of a screen, a rain screen, on a rail.
What does it look like?
So here's the thing, the issue is that basically it is a material that is simulating another material, which is the problem based on our standards. Because the composite wood was, as we kind of gone to over the recent years, a modern interpretation of the same material. This is clearly metal.
It's metal.
It's aluminum that has wood grain painted on it.
Oh,
Looks like a garage.
oh,
Doesn't
yeah,
have
we would
garage-
not.
Doesn't have garage door vibe to it.
Okay, can you tell the difference?
wood grading, finish, and for it to be, of course, a paint that's suitable for the metal material.
Yes.
Be our condition for that.
No, I feel like if we're already continuing with other things, I feel like we should continue this too until we can, people have more of a chance to kind of digest.
So can we just end this application, this discussion now?
I feel like we can.
I think.
We don't need any further approvals today, correct?
So would the commissioners want to continue the other elements of material change from like the 4-inch smooth block to the 8-inch, what is it called? I'm so sorry, the split face, the brick veneer, or not brick veneer, but the fiber cement, and the rear door and things of that nature that it all sits up.
So the things so this siding, it would be really clean to be able to say everything that we approved in 2021 that somehow didn't get stamped, we can go ahead and approve again, because
Right,
that's
but
not,
this isn't one of them.
but this isn't one of them.
Yeah,
So,
what
so
are
I
those
would,
things?
I would like to do that at least to get that out of here.
No, we can discuss that a little bit further. So what has been approved is the fiber cement vertical board of batten. That was approved in June 2021, as well as the 5-inch tall capstone sills and the front door. Those were approved at that time.
Okay.
So I move as part B to approve.
Sorry. Did we
No,
already?
because we never did
Never
the
got
original part.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, yeah.
As part B to approve all,
Let's list the things.
okay. Well, can someone relist?
There's no all.
I will allow staff to, make part of my motion for me.
Yes, I can list that. To approve the fiber cement board that was approved in June 2021.
Which is the white board pattern.
Yes, which is the white board and batten portion. That does not include the metal,
Right.
brown faux grating, the 5-inch tall cast stone sills, as well as the front door, on the structures on both the buildings.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Okay, so we got that far. So the remaining issues of these 643 things that did not go according to plan on this building, I believe are the landscape plan, the window applications, which we agreed we're gonna continue both of those. The wood grain finish metal on here, which we can either continue or we can continue to discuss. And then the rear additional door.
Yes, and it also includes the original drawings were approved for the 4-inch smooth face block, and now it's the 8-inch split
Well,
face.
we never approved
No.
the face, right? So that is an actual.
That is a change, yeah, that is an actual.
Also, it's not what we were hearing, so.
And that also includes, there are a lot of elements, apologies, that also includes the upper handrail portion of the buildings as well, which the commission seem to be in agreement with and fine with, but it includes that item.
And the specification of the garage door.
Yes.
I could get behind supporting the changes to the parapet and to both garage and auto door and command door of the garages.
Okay, so the added door, added man door in the back, the changes to the garage door, and what was your third thing?
Parapet changes, which is removal of the rail.
Yeah.
Or change the rail and use the parapet as a guardrail.
Okay, and then, I mean, I don't know if there's really much we can now do about this wood base block, that's not what we would recommend. Really. So,
I think that I'm willing to let that go because of these other features that we are
Yeah.
prescribing at the
okay, so is that your motion to approve those 4 items now?
That's motion C.
with appropriate discussion, yes.
Okay,
That's my motion.
I have nothing to discuss for that.
okay, so let's get a second and we can discuss any further. So we have,
Second.
okay, so any other thoughts on those 4 items from everybody up here? That would be the split face, the man door, the garage doors. This is like a memory exercise.
And the change of the parapet.
The change of
Yes.
next
So
to the
those four.
man in the hat who was eating a salad. Oh, hold on. Apparently no one else would like those games with their kids. Um,
Giving up the parapet is really hard for me. But it is what it is.
just turn the whole thing down to fix it. David, do you have any thoughts on those 4?
Go ahead.
Anything else done? Okay, so let me have a motion. A motion is for approval of those 4 items as noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions. Okay. So I feel that's as far as we're going to get today. I
Yes.
feel like we've checked off the first 230 of the
Yes.
270 things that went on with this.
Yes. So then D would be landscaping with window, wood grain finish to be continued.
Yes.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. Okay, so that is continued. So let's get,
Feels more mechanical now.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
let's, here we go.
We'll figure that out.
Was,
Looking at her.
that was quite a thing. Again, we were out there. That was the other day too. Okay, so let's move on. What's next? Looks like we got one that's going to move to staff approval, which means we can then go to number 4. Is that right?
Yes, number 4.
Okay, 853 Summit Street, IV 25-05-009.
Number 3 or number 3?
Oh,
Sorry.
4. 3 is moving to staff again. Got it.
I need to recuse,
Making up.
abstain from this because of proximity. I'm nearby.
Oh, fair enough. All right, sir, will you please raise your right hand, state your name for the record,
Tyler Fennessy.
and you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability in this?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll go to staff.
The proposed work description is to remove a non-original aluminum siding that is currently installed over the original wood siding. Applicant was recently approved for an exploratory demo of a section of siding. Applicant is proposing to install new hardy planks lap siding and trim over the existing wood. Siding will be 7-inch exposure, and to be painted midnight. Staff analysis, property was originally approved for aluminum to be installed over existing UA approval in 1983. Applicant had initially reached out about siding replacement in March 2023. HBO staff informed the applicant that our standard review for non-original siding removal and replacement is to evaluate and determine the original siding still exists underneath or has been removed. Applicant was then approved for an exploratory demolition pad for the property. If original siding is still present, then staff will need to determine the condition of the siding. Applicant submitted the finding where staff found at the time that there wasn't sufficient examples to determine if the siding was in poor condition to not be repaired since the test patch was taken from the historic condition. It is additionally recommended applicant provide other exploratory patches on other areas of the home to evaluate condition and to determine the main home was the same siding as the addition and evidence of the condition. At the main business meeting, commissioners stated and requested the following. They recommended additional exploratory on the main structure and for staff to schedule site visit once the additional exploratory work has been performed to assess the siding. They commented on the siding exposure, stating that they typically prefer 3 to 5 inch siding, with 4 inch being more appropriate than 7 inch. They requested applicant to verify if all trim is to be replaced or repaired since it appears that the eaves are currently aluminum. Applicant responded to the feedback, stating that they had 3 contractors at the house to evaluate the siding. They stated that the original wood siding has decayed beyond the point of being salvageable. Additionally, we were able to schedule site visit between the applicant, well, owner, Tyler and myself, last week. At the time, I could not determine if the siding was, in disrepair. There was a section that was that was broken or damaged, and that was on the rear portion of your door. But from the other elements, it seemed to be okay, but we would need further exploratory work to be able to come to a decision on that. But for staff recommendation, we recommend the commission continue the application to allow applicant time to perform additional exploratory patches on the home to better evaluate the condition of the original siding. Basis of staff rec is 31-16-11, standards for alteration. And that's all. Thank you.
All right, over to you.
I guess I would wonder like what the purpose of delaying the decision is if the end goal is the same, which is hardy plank siding. Replacing the siding with material that is more appropriate than aluminum from the early 80s. And if a certain amount of exploratory work was required and what we did was not enough, like I submitted what I was going to take off at the time when I did that COA. Would have been appropriate probably for staff to come back and say, well, we need more than that. And maybe I could have done that at the time. Now contractors,
We did.
now contractors are too busy to be able to just come over on a whim to do more exploratory demo. There's a lot of places on there you can see right there on the right side of the entry door, you can pull back the siding and see that it's definitely rotted. Unfortunately, this property was not owned by someone who felt the need to maintain the original siding underneath. What we're trying to do is just make it look better. Obviously, it looks terrible as it sits right now. We don't want to leave the aluminum. It's not contributing. And we certainly don't want to delay this any further because as Morgan stated, I've been trying to move forward on this since March. That's when I first initiated all of this. And if it's continued another month, that subsequently delays ordering material and completion of the project, which isn't good for me or really anybody. So what else? Other homes in Italian Village have hardy plank. 3 of them right next to us have it. The house I use an example on North 4th has it. That's really all I have to say.
Okay, sounds good. Sharon, we want to jump in?
I think looking at these photos, the edges always look rotted, right? That's like the nature because they've been exposed. I think our question is like, once you get to the middle, does it look really healthy and fine? And if that's the case, you take the vinyl off and you put wood on. I don't think the end goal is hardy plank. The end goal is to preserve the original siding.
For me, the end goal is hardy plank because I don't want to have to deal with maintenance for every 3 to 5 years and painting and all that.
But
there's already precedent for it in the neighborhood. So
after this type of exploration. So that's kind of the, that's where I'm at, is if staff doesn't feel that the photos provided.
and we certainly aren't only looking at the edges either. We looked at the spot that was removed on the addition, which is historical. What'd you say was built like 1891 or something like that?
Yeah, from the Sanborn is.
So I mean, that's historical. And then there was a fake window that was removed where you can see that it's lap siding underneath. That's not in the middle. You can see that is deteriorating. The siding that's hanging below the aluminum is obviously very deteriorated. So
Well, let's let the other commissioners.
David, what do you think?
Staff, could you say again when you were reading this, you feel that it needs more exploration? Is that the preservation office's recommendation?
Yes, we had reached out to the applicant previously about additional exploratory work and also mentioned that on our site visit as well. Just to see, because right now it is the addition on the back. We have seen evidence that there's clapboard siding or lap siding on the main home. So we would like to see the condition of that as well. And from that photo of the addition, the siding did not seem to be in terrible shape. It was a little soft in the middle where they're joining, they're butting together for the wood. But from what I could see, you can tell, so we would just need additional information so we can make a better determination.
and Morgan responded when I submitted the COA for exploratory that it was on the addition. Could have came back to me and said, let's not do it there, let's do it on another area. And I would have probably been more than happy to do that.
I
The
did
issue
note
is
that-
that it's been 2 months already. and I have to continue to wait to get. this done.
Typically, we have the commissioners all give their feedback before you start responding, so maybe we should stick with our.
Anyway, David, what's your, I think you were asking a question, so.
But taking the staff recommendation or exploration, but let's do it quickly so that we can help this applicant move forward. It's going to be easy to make the decision if you have more to say. I'm also concerned about the interior eave of the roof line. Is that aluminum siding up there?
I was concerned about.
The whole eave is, it's literally just a coating of aluminum over the original eave.
These lines right here, this white.
Yeah.
I'm seeing under here, is that aluminum? Which would not have been historic at all, and as a concern. Also, let's go back to the side of the house and the roof picture, by the way, just question, right here. Could you bring that up in the large one, number 3? What's happened right in here? It looks like something's happening to the tiles.
It was a patch done by the previous owner, as far as I know.
Okay,
It was leaking.
so I'm going to make a motion that we.
Well, let's talk about this for one more second. I haven't gotten into this yet. So, I'm just trying to understand. So this little rear addition is where all the sort of board and batten stuff is, we think? Because that, I mean, I can't tell just from this one picture, but it looks pretty bad. And maybe it's.
There's a close-up picture of it.
I know, I'm just saying, doing my best. So this is a tiny screen. And then, the question I'm back to your question, David, about the plan, regardless of preservation or replacement for these eaves. What is your plan for like what happens on the eaves? Because it looks like they're pretty rotten out right now. So what?
Yeah, there's in rough shape. We had 5 squirrels living in there.
So, so what happens?
We're planning on replacing all that.
With
Or
her.
covering it with wood or hardy. I mean, probably hardy wood.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the questions I have, is I'm trying to get to, I'm just trying to figure out what that's gonna be. That to me is almost as significant as any of the rest of this. He gave this example of this little house that's over next to Seventh Son.
Yeah, 4th.
Yeah, I can't see it in this picture. I don't think they ran. I don't know what they did underneath those eaves, but I don't think it's.
Messed up in
Because we had them cover original wood with hardy on that one.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm trying to think of what happens underneath there, because it certainly isn't the same. I mean, this is going back to the original shape of that eve, which is, I think, what the goal is, as opposed to the wrap that happened on this one. And so I think we want to get back to that. I'm just trying to understand what your detail is to get back to that.
Can you explain to me a little more what you're trying to get back to?
As you say, there's like a relief behind that front, that sort of fascia board, and it's not boxed in. It kind of reliefs back up to the original roof sheeting material.
Is that what you're indicating?
Yeah. And so I guess that's my question, is like, are you showing this because you're trying to emulate that thing, or is that just incidental?
That's incidental. I was using that house as an example for windows and.
Okay,
And
so I guess that's one of my questions, is that I'm trying to figure out like what your eave's gonna look like when you do this replacement. And I'm not clear on that yet, because that is pretty significant, regardless of whether or not your hardy plank is approved or not. There has to be a solution. So if it wasn't hardy, then we ask you to repair it as it was originally constructed. And if it is hardy, then we need to understand, like, what does that mean? Like, what happens under there?
Okay, so the aluminum is obviously removed, and can hardy plank be installed on top of that? I guess I'm trying to understand what you would want. What do you recommend?
I'm looking at that other house, and I want the profile that house has.
Okay,
So, because if you notice on the current, your house right now, it's a flat box, because that's what they did. They would go and they'd cover it, but I don't know what got covered underneath there. And the one thing I don't want is for you to take this aluminum off and then just slap Hardy right back on the same bad box profile.
Gotcha.
Because then we're just right back in the same spot. So then we got another 50 years of straight up profile.
To be honest with you, I haven't gotten that far and I'm open to suggestions as far as the eaves are concerned.
Okay.
Because I'm really just focused on ordering the siding because that's the stuff that has
Yeah.
an 8 lead time.
I'm trying to get it back. I mean, for simplicity, I'm trying to get it back as much as that eve can look like that 19 whatever picture in there before the siding got put on it.
Like what it looks like right there.
That Polaroid picture.
Polaroid.
Sorry, this is really slow on here. I cannot get this thing to move around. It's a
You might not have this.
That. See, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, so like that more of a classic eve line where there's some relief on that below. Yeah, well, I guess. It's just hard to see. So that's it. That's what I'm trying to get to. So I think that makes it a little trickier just to understand. I understand your frustration on the timing. It does put us in a little bit of a tough situation. I think the one turned out great. That's right over by Stone Sun, because we determined that that siding wasn't salvageable. Turned out that I think looks great.
In my eyes, this shows it as historic picture, that these were two different materials.
Right.
Yeah, what's,
Right, for sure.
If we want to honor it, if we do hardy pick,
Yeah.
it really ought to then be put back. This is the vertical, and these would be horizontal on the main box, and that would tell the story and the history of
Yeah.
that.
I mean, that does.
I'm not opposed to that.
So what I think that this time will do, one more month is gonna do, is it's going to allow you to have that, the further exploration done by staff, and then also allow you, if staff says, yeah, this can be replaced with hardy, you're gonna be able to give us the detail that we would need anyways for approval for you to move ahead with hardy.
And
Because even if we were okay with hardy tonight, we wouldn't let you go ahead because we don't have the details of the eaves.
So, yeah, so you're saying you're okay considering like a board mat and hardy on that back?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I actually kind of assumed you might recommend that anyways.
yeah, so I think it's the eve, that, and the other one. So I'm really sorry. I just don't see a way we're gonna go forward today because of these questions. So I understand the frustration. I totally get it.
It is frustrating because no one asked me that until right now.
I understand. Yeah, I completely understand. We just want to get it right because obviously this house with the aluminum has not been in good shape for many, many decades.
For probably 40 years.
Yeah, this is a chance to have it be really nice for the next, 40 plus years. So we do appreciate you doing this. We're very apologetic that it's going to take another month. At the same time, I think that's the opportunity for us to get all these questions answered. But staff, you can just make sure that we have a finite recommendation from your end, what this siding looks like, and then we can have a good discussion on how to favor it. So.
in addition, Commissioner, just real quick, I did note the detailing on my site visit there for the soffit, for the eave. It looks like it is more of an enclosed piece, but that is from the rear gable end. So if that helps at all for any further evaluation and future, but just.
Yeah, and if you could verify that, in your opinion, do you think that was the original constructed shape, or do you think they modified that in order to make it easier to put the aluminum siding on? Because I think that's one of the concerns I have.
Gotcha.
Because they may have just added a piece in order to give it something behind that one too. Because that's, my mom's got a craftsman style house. They just jumped off and doing that, so many years ago. Those aluminum side sails were very convincing back then. Okay, so with that, I believe you want to make a motion for that?
Yeah, moves to continue.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. Okay. Thanks for working with us. We're gonna get there, I promise.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. And this is 1050 North Fourth, IV 23 05 011. I gotta shut something. Yes. I think it's falling down. The signage, oh yeah, that's correct. All right. Whenever you're ready there, if you can all raise your right hands and we'll just go down the line, state your name.
Colin Carter,
Oliver Holtzberg.
Barry Chandler.
And you all promise to tell the truth in your testimony this evening.
Yes.
Okay, great. Scott.
Right. This is to install a non-illuminated peach house sign for submitted materials. Size to be 14 inches high with 5 foot 10 inch long with half-inch thickness, lettering to be stud-mounted flush PVC installed onto the existing wood sign band surface on west elevation and mounted on aluminum studs. Staff analysis, a tenant sign package of 1050 North Fourth Street was previously approved in January 2023. The current proposed design does not match the previously approved tenant sign package. HPO staff had informed the applicant that the proposed design did not match the approval and would need to be reviewed by the commission. At the May business meeting, commissioners stated they were fine with the scale and color of the sign. They recommended the pin-mounted sign to have at least a quarter to a half inch from the sign band to the back of the sign. After further discussion, the commission voted to move the application to staff approval. The following conditions, if applicant was in agreement to follow the previously approved tenant sign package to install a sign band over the wood band to attach the proposed signage instead of being installed directly to the wood band, and to install the address number to the door. Applicant requested to proceed with the current proposal of attaching directly to the wood band portion and has decided to remain on the current month's agenda for the hearing. Staff recommends approval of application IV 23-05-011 as submitted, with any clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate with conditions. For the sign to follow previously approved tenant sign package with a separate sign band to be installed to the existing wood band with the new proposed sign to be attached. Basis of staff rec is short North design guidelines, signage pages 3.37 and 3.41, and 311613 standards for site improvements.
Okay, thanks. What do you?
Yeah, so basically what we're trying to do here is just do individual letters on the facade instead of putting them on what you may call like a raceway, an aluminum band that would be mounted to the facade. I'm with Day Night Sign Company, and we originally put those drawings together for the tenants of this building, but I think that was a little bit of design oversight in the beginning, and so none of the tenants are up at this point in time. So I think what we're just trying to do is to avoid doing that big aluminum band there and just have individual mounted letters. We just think it would look a lot cleaner. We think it can easily be redone if tenants ever move in and out, where you can just change that backing to get the, so there's no penetration holes being shown. So.
Is it just real quickly, I thought there was one other sign up on that building already. There's not a tenant sign?
There is, so the building is called The Slate.
Yeah.
And so there was an acrylic, dimensional lettering that is applied over the lobby. So if you take a look at that storefront on the far left, over that front door, there is a small slate signage, non-illuminated slate signage that is mounted directly to that hardy facade.
Yeah, I thought I remember seeing one that was directly mounted on.
Yeah, and so that's the basis of the design for the Peach House, same kind of dimensional acrylic to align with the primary building sign over the front door.
Where do you intend to put the street numbers? I don't see them in tonight's.
They've all, the unit numbers have already been applied to the transoms. And that was previously approved. So yeah, and that transom directly below, that's the proposed sign location.
Okay, well, David, you want to continue with any other questions?
Got Ben.
Okay, John, do it.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons that we thought dimensional would be better is it actually gives you an opportunity to bring us out and allow this, the text to, it feels like it's kind of oddly rising above this lid. And if you get it projecting out enough, then you can allow that descender to drop in front of this lid. We agree with you. I think, I'm going to speak for everybody else on this, that the big panel is not what the objective is here. And the only reason why a panel was even the way we approach that is because I think it gives you the flexibility that instead of penetrating this facade piece, you could come here with, with all the letters already mounted to a back panel, whether it's, any sort of outdoor rated substrate, and just adhere that and have that panel painted the same color as the fascia, and a minor thickness. And you can install it with, 4 attachments. So suffice to say that dimensional letters is great. Pen mounted letters would have given you a little more control of how to appropriately drop that text so it feels like it belongs architecturally in the space, where that lower line essentially is kind of like a baseline optically. Instead of it just kind of feeling like it's got helium in it floating up, which is because you got to fit that lowercase p above this lip. That's why we felt that that the original spec was actually closer to what you want. But if my description helps this, then so much the better. So I just wonder if you, with that description, understand it differently and would go along with that or not.
Following up with Ben, if you count these pins, there would be 18 holes in this material if this left. But if you look at the architecture, look at this with the dark tone inside the frames, it's all over the building. Why couldn't you put this dark single panel with maybe 4 that wouldn't mean that if that goes away, it doesn't have 18 holes up there? And why don't you pick up on what the building is doing and you turn a dark field, which would probably make the contrast of your light color here work even more of a contrast.
So yeah, we're just trying, I think it makes it more adaptive to the architecture, and I don't think it improves your design opportunities and the way it presents the identity in the space, but.
Do you have anything, Shannon?
No one else has problems with it. I think we're acting more for the owner of the building, if the tenants move and switch.
Well, but you're appropriately calling out that this approach calls for a lot of penetrations versus if you did have a painted out or some sort of, compatible paint color panel, you could do it with 4
And
attachments.
the architecture of the storefront welcomes that.
So,
I mean, I guess my only takeaway, I'm less concerned in the fact that it's a new building with newer material that could be, I think, catch it up, identified as,
Okay, all right.
that's my take, but.
I don't want
I'll let
to
you
continue
make
this.
the
Let's make a decision.
I don't
Go.
care.
I don't care. Okay.
let's talk, I mean, do any of these recommendations make any sense to you? Do you want to modify anything before we make a motions?
I can see what you're saying. If you stand out the band, you could make the letters bigger and all that. I just think it kind of differs from the slate one that's already on there, that it's mounted directly to it. And the light fixtures are there as well, so I don't know, even if we made it a little bigger, I'm not sure that light would be directing on that band very well at that point, but.
Okay, are you the owner or are you the?
Yeah, representing the owner. Yeah.
Oh, but you understand how that, to our eyes, seemed like it didn't
Yeah,
fit.
yeah,
the
with the
architectural space.
lowercase and then the.
Yeah, so I mean, if you like the idea of being able to lower it, then we need to move to something that's a little less flush that's being proposed here tonight. So is that something you want to support, or because it's going to affect the emotion?
You've got a detail right there below the, the bottom part of that P that sticks out proud enough that, you'd have to pull the letters 6 inches off of the facade. And then at that point, doesn't really make sense. And I think that it deviates too much from what was originally intended. I did like what was proposed with a potential backer to, match the dark part of the storefront that maybe holds it off a little bit. I think that definitely doesn't make it look worse. So I think that could be an option, but that is the owner's, preference.
So this, which before us right now is the owner's.
Does the owner want something a little bit different to allow the letters to center better?
I think I would prefer to keep it how it is because like you said, I think it would match the other side better.
All right, I move on 06, I'm sorry, IV 2305-011 to approve as presented here.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. Okay, you're good to go. Thank you.
Thanks, JP.
All right, so next one up is 608 North High Street. So,
Even commissioners.
if you will please raise your right hands and state your names for the record.
Yes, Matt Toddy.
Colin Carter. And you, you're already sworn in, but do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this evening?
I do.
Okay, great. Yeah.
All right. Proposed work description, a previous design proposal was conceptually reviewed in 2021, COA number IV 210624, constructing new wood and glass storefronts at 10 existing masonry openings. 4 of the storefront openings will receive operable and folding partitions indicated as nano wall in the drawings, proposing 2 options. Installation of new exterior lights, including a mix of gooseneck and sconce lights, fixtures, tenant signs to be determined as proposed to be supported by a new painted steel channel running the length of west elevation and 10 feet along the south elevation. At the May business meeting, commissioners made the following comments and requests. Commissioners requested applicant to provide a more accurate rendering to include the coloration of the existing building, with proposed color to be used for the new storefront openings that has been provided. They asked applicant to clarify the following: if they are intending on painting the brick or leaving it natural finish, for the little pocket park to be maintained, if the windows on the second floor are being changed, if the sign box will be removed, provide additional information on the transoms of the storefronts, existing and new, provide neighboring building details in the renderings for context, and overall, the commission appreciates the incorporation and design. Applicant has submitted updated drawings based off commissioner feedback and responded to the following questions. Applicant is intending to maintain existing brick finish. Pocket Park is controlled by City Recreation and Parks Department. There's consideration of a future patio dining area will require city approval. All window openings on the second floor to be maintained. The sign box will be removed, and the existing transoms are either non-existing or glazing with opaque film. New storefront transoms are intended to be opaque, similar to the Yukon building across the street. From the updated drawings provided, staff noticed the stone lintel over the door on the south elevation does not appear to be present in the proposed drawings. If applicant is proposing to remove, is applicant proposing to remove the lintel? We need clarification on that. Staff recommends approval of application IV 05012 as submitted with any all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of certificate with conditions, to retain all existing lintels and sills, and to add glazing to the transoms in lieu of an opaque finish to match the existing condition. Basis of staff rec is 311611, standard for alteration, and architecture review commission guideline amendments adopted in 2005 for door opens.
Excellent.
Great. Thanks, Morgan. Morgan did a great job. This is a pretty cut and dry project. You're probably well familiar with the property. The existing storefronts on the kind of front of the building, the west and southwest sides, which would be the High Street frontage, are non-existent. They've been boarded up for years. And the storefronts along the Poplar Avenue, the south side there, moving to the southeast corner, are in various states of disrepair and in desperate need of replacement. So the proposal here is to replace them with like for like, just update it. And we took care to really try and match other precedents along the High Street corridor nearby and across the street. So I will say, just to respond to one of the comments, there are no plans to remove or replace any existing lintels. Those will remain in place. We're really just dealing with the existing openings as they are. And we would love to activate the Poplar Avenue Pocket Park. Unfortunately, we don't really have much say in that at this time. And if it's possible, we'd like to ask the commission to maybe put a recommendation in place for Parks and Rec to work with us on that potential activating that park towards a higher and better use. So I'd love to answer any questions you have.
Sounds good. Just two quick clarifications. One, I believe in previous application, we determined that the storefronts down Popular Avenue side were not original. Those were later infill storefronts. And so that's, I think, worth noting that you're not removing anything that's original. Also, it's my understanding that you're maintaining all the current openings of the buildings and just
Correct.
those, right?
Yep.
So I'll address the park real quick and then we'll go around the horn. We're the city, but we're not the city.
Right.
There's a lot of parts of the city. And it's very unclear to me, and I've never understood, because we've gone through this several times with this building before, how that department is so prohibitive of any use of that while we are allowing use of the right of way in front of buildings for public dining. What the difference is, I truly don't know. I don't understand the policy behind that. I would encourage you to pursue it again, because I don't know if the temperature's changed over the years. But at least from my perspective, and everybody else can speak to this individually, I don't see any difference between that streetscape frontage along the park and the streetscape frontage along High Street, where we routinely allow activated dining and activated public space. And I would also argue that the unique nature of this park that's so deep and angular, I think we'd want to promote a more monitored, steady usage as deep on that park as we can, and activate a space that's quite frankly weird, because it's, I would say, the only triangular hardscape public park that borders a cap over a freeway that we have or will ever have in our city. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to set a massive precedent for the widespread use of restaurant profligate cultivation across our city parks. So from my perspective, I'm highly in support of that, and I'd be happy to put that into any kind of motion. So with that, let's go around the horn. David?
Just out of curiosity, does Kevin have the tenant for this space already?
So part of the, well, oh, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, there has been some good interest. The opportunity to engage the park is definitely a question mark and very important to potential tenants. So there has been good interest, but at this point, we really need to move forward with our storefronts to attract any sort of tenant.
Okay, one of the things that we know that restaurants do is generate a lot of trash. And I keep seeing, I don't see anywhere here where you're addressing what you guys are going to do to screen the dumpsters, to not just have trash hanging out the back of the building. So it would be very important to see how you're going to use the site there. Then tagging on to, and there's an example right now in the Italian Village with this trash issue that has gotten totally out of hand, but I won't go into details given that we're 2 hours beyond where we should be. But I would like to see the site plan for that. And what I recall that killed the project last time for the city was the depth of how much space. And this is the issue, I think, with the High Street question is would you fill the whole patio in the park? Would you fill all of it? Or do you only want to come out one table row and a circulation pattern, much like we see on the streets now?
That's right. That's a good question. And I to clarify my comments, I
The
certainly
last-
wasn't promoting.
Yeah,
the use of
last
the
group was trying to, they were way out into that, which I think the city didn't want to lose.
More like the typical streetscape that is
delineated. And I noticed in your renderings, the old frame for the calendar dry cleaning sign, it still shows in the pictures, but we want that removed. Is that in your understanding?
I think it's gone here.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay.
So can I respond to David, or would it all?
Let's just go through real quick then.
Yeah, okay, so generally, I think the approach and the facade and steel band, good stuff. But I've got some recommendations that are for the whole board to think about. But it looks logical to have that the entrance to the south facing High Street. But especially because we're talking about this kind of relationship to the pocket park, I think this is an excellent opportunity to think about an angled entrance, 45-degree angle, which is something you see often. And since this is a brand new entrance, it's not, you're totally carving out a way to enter that space. I wonder if you thought about and would consider a different way of the way the door is facing, out. So in other words, again, to say it, 45-degree angle. Like you would see like at the building at, say, First and Fourth Street.
Like Bakersfield, I think is a good
Yeah.
example.
Bakersfield.
Hamlet. Hamlet.
Yep.
I think that's there's a load bearing column out front of Bakersfield, I think.
There is a column
Yeah.
at Bakersfield.
So there's a lot of precedent for this kind of thing, and I think this is a great opportunity for that, given the way the civic space is shaped right there. All right, so that's one thing that maybe we'll hear more about from the others, but I'm assuming that steel channel that where the signage is sitting is a steel channel. It's not brick metal on 2x4s.
Right, the intent there is it's a C channel.
Okay.
I think it shows a
I think
12
that's
inch.
appropriate
Yeah.
and good. I happen to think that at where the facade meets the sidewalk, you need an extra board down there to create a real sense of the way it meets the ground and hierarchy between what you've got two boards, and we have basically panels, and they're centered into between boards. And really, the hierarchy should sort of feel like you've got more weight at the base.
You're talking in addition to the 1x6 that's shown at the bottom?
Yeah, I think you essentially need what is, equivalent to like a shoe mold, kind of, a disposable board and just another visual step.
Sure.
I agree, by the way, with Commissioner Cook's comments about trash. That's all I got.
Shannon?
I have nothing to add.
All right, over to you.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate the feedback. I believe we're open to all of those possibilities. I think, Morgan, if you wouldn't mind scrolling back up to the plans. Oh, sorry. Yes. We had originally shown a number of patio options there along the sort of middle section there of the first floor that would spill out into that pocket park of various depths. And then we ultimately decided not to show them in this application because we don't control that space yet. But I think the intent would be to use as much of it as, we could while maintaining a pedestrian throughway. And activating, really the intent there is to activate as much of the park as possible. So.
Sorry, I do have one thing, I guess. There was an approved plan at some point. The city approved in one of our prior applications, a patio.
Did they?
They did.
I don't think so.
Yes,
That's what-
we had an approved.
I honestly
That's what
don't think
broke
so.
the deal.
Yeah, I don't think that's
That's why
true.
the tenant didn't go in.
I thought the tenant didn't go in because COVID happened.
I just don't think we ever had. I've never seen it.
We,
But, yeah.
we,
But
we,
yeah, and I would say, just, I think the sweet spot for you is that activated sidewalk. I think that's your sweet spot, because then you're not starting to fundamentally modify the seating that's in the park or anything else. That any person that wants to use the park, it remains very publicly active, and at the same time, you could capture what is essentially an old street sidewalk. I think that's the argument. The argument isn't you're gonna take over the whole park and no one can use it. It's that we're just gonna reclaim what was a sidewalk anyway. And then the open space next to it becomes.
we want to reclaim that experience of sitting on the sidewalk, right?
That's it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
We did hear a rumor at one point that there was maybe a patio that was talked about, but the alcohol could not be served since it was
Yeah,
a
because
city
of-
property. So maybe that might have some layer, it's all hearsay at this point.
Man door exit on the south side, would you have a way to enlarge that if you're gonna be taking food out onto the patio and that type of thing? With your window unit in that way, be able to come back with a double door or a larger circulation to get outside?
I think we could look at other door options. I wouldn't necessarily want to increase the existing masonry.
Is
opening.
that an existing opening,
It
floor
is,
opening?
it is, yeah.
Because historically it's had doors along there. Maybe your final solution, you might want to have an inoperable that could be made operable at a later time.
Did you want to speak to garbage?
I think, I don't have much to add. I think it's a valid concern. With regard to, it's a zero lot line building. So it's going to be I think something that we have to figure out with.
Yeah, we'll need to study that a little bit.
And it would all be out the rear, you think, with that dumpster
Yeah,
area back there?
I think that would be the idea. So we're not going into the park.
Brick wall or some screening.
Yeah, there's some funkiness back there now, I know. So it's just.
I think that's the generator for the Joseph. That's,
This is the area you would probably need, I would assume, this is the area where there's already a shared dumpster situation because of the Joseph. So they'd probably just be,
So there's a location back there because of
Yeah.
the parking lot and everything.
yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a number of questions yet remaining. Are you okay with us then continuing this to next month to address some of those issues then?
I think if we get if a conditional approval is possible, that'd be great. If we need to continue,
At this time, so I apologize. It is just the storefront and the light fixtures. I'm not sure if the storefront openings drive the dumpster for the commission. I just wanted to clarify and double check.
I'd like to give the applicant an opportunity to investigate cranking that entrance.
That'd be,
Yeah. And that, you can't, without that study, we can't prove the facade. But the commission has, the other commissioners have to be behind that idea. It seems like a great
I'd
opportunity.
have to see it, honestly.
What?
I'd have to see it, and I could go either way, as far as the fun.
Could it be a subcommittee? Does it need to come back to us?
That's what you're right.
Well, I mean,
You would have to
Yeah,
serve on this.
okay.
subcommittee.
I will serve on that subcommittee if that's.
So I mean, are you comfortable, staff, deferring the final solution of that corner? I mean, it's really, we're just talking about that corner. We're not talking about anything else that sounds good.
Yes, I mean, we could move it to subcommittee. Additionally, we are missing 3 of the commissioners. So that could be continued to get their feedback on that. We could approve the overall.
Yeah.
Yes, storefront openings.
How do we do that? Are you okay, if we just continue that storefront and the sort of the lower front facade storefront and we kind of move forward with the approvals on the rest of the openings?
I think so.
Because that way you
Yeah.
could study it, come back.
Happy to provide a study for the angled entry.
And then you could maybe bring us some thoughts on trash.
Yeah.
And before we move approval, additionally, there's some nano walls on that, I forget what elevation it is, I apologize, the south elevation. Yes, is that correct, nano walls on that elevation as well?
Yeah, well, we're actually showing the option to have it on the High Street frontage as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's hold on High Street for now, just because of that. I mean, we've approved it certainly before, but let's just not approve anything on the High Street lower frontage, if that's okay. That way we can kind of move forward with the rest of it
Fair
and investigate that, tell us what you think about the lower front facade. But I think, it doesn't sound like we have too many other problems. And all the proposed windows and everything are approvable by staff.
Yes, yeah, everything that's being infilled with masonry mix is fine. Our only concern is just if the commission is fine with the nano wall on the south elevation. So there is one being proposed on the High Street, but there are a couple.
We already fought over that years ago on this building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, I just want to double.
These are all replacements.
Pull up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David and Shannon likes battle over nano walls.
To clarify, the nano walls on the south elevation, well, all of them are table height. They're not full height.
Right, gotcha. Okay, so do I have,
As a group feature.
I agree. So do I have a motion excluding that sign?
And by then, maybe they will have signage
Yeah.
to.
Bringing the poplar side, you're talking about the poplar side.
Yeah, that's. all right.
I'm saying the whole thing except for the
That's
lower.
what I said, yeah. Yeah, the whole
Okay.
facade except for the lower front.
Yeah, for the High Street.
Facing Tyson.
Yes.
Knowing that the applicant is gonna bring back thoughts to us, on rotating the storefront 45 degrees to be at an angle and bring back, thoughts on how trash will be dealt with. I would like definitely explore what's happening with Pizzuti. I believe that Betsy's team manages that situation back there.
I second that.
Okay, and then also just before we vote on that, I would recommend that if you want to show us, if you want to, it's up to you, show us sort of a preliminary idea of where you think the outdoor space would be along that street front. I think that would be, make it easier for us to recommend
Yes.
to Parks and Rec, because then we could say, this is an area that we feel is appropriate.
Absolutely.
Especially in that outdoor area, had some planter containers that were permanent, not just railing to meet the liquor control. Would complement the park also, and could be another reason that we would say greening that area would be make it a better park.
Great. Okay, with that, we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
And so, yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed and abstentions. Okay, so you're mostly approved, and we look forward to seeing the remainder of your application next month.
Thank you. Thank
All
you,
right,
Commissioner.
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And hopefully that really happens, because this is the fourth. Okay, Joe.
Make it happen.
Let's
Don't break our hearts.
do our best. Thank you all.
Don't pick our dry cleaner.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, here we go. The next one is 1046 Summit Street. IV-23-05-3.
Close to me.
I don't know. We'll look it up.
I'm at 1016.
Probably, but I'm not sure.
Essentially, just to be safe,
Yeah.
We have a visitor that's really anxious to get up to the table.
I'm crazy.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, you are. Maybe it'll be a little forward.
I'm late for the movies with my grandson, but
Yeah, sorry about that.
that's okay. I have a sneaky suspicion this isn't going to take you long.
Every time I try and make plans after this meeting, it doesn't work out. So if I don't, it's fast. So that's how you know. Okay, so apparently we have one abstention for proximity. Staff, will you tell us what's going on?
Yes, do we swear in?
Oh, yeah, please. Will you please raise your right hand and state your name for the record?
Susan Hinkle,
And do you promise to tell the truth of your testimony this evening?
I promise to tell the truth.
Thank you, and staff.
Proposed work description is remove 3 deteriorating vinyl windows from the second floor bedroom windows per submitted materials. Replace with 3 new vinyl windows from Universal Windows. COA approval cannot be located in HBO files for the existing vinyl windows. Staff analysis, the owner initially reached out in late March for vinyl window replacement. HBO staff informed owner of the approved windows list that has been vetted by all districts. Or historic district commissions, we informed them that we would not be able to approve a window selected from, or we would, I'm so sorry. We would be able to approve a window selected from the list, but could not approve a vinyl. It would not support a vinyl window replacement. Additionally, HBO staff did not have record of approval for the existing vinyl windows. The May business meeting, commissioners were unanimous in supporting the vinyl window replacement. Were unanimous in not supporting, I apologize, commissioners. They recommend applicants select from the approved window list. Staff recommends either 1, the applicant select a window from the approved windows list for the window replacement, or 2, that the application be continued to allow the applicant additional time to further study the windows. If option 1 is passed, final cut sheets and window schedule will be submitted to HBO staff prior to review and approval. Basis of staff rec is 311611, standards for operation.
Okay, thank you. Over to you.
Well, my request is simple. I'd like to have installed the 3 vinyl windows which I purchased. They're upstairs in that picture in my bedroom. When you purchase windows, you call someone to come and talk to you about windows, and then you pick out what you want and then you purchase them, but then you have to pay for them. And then you wait to have them installed, and then they call and say, you know, the windows you just purchased, we can't get a permit to install. My only option was to come here today and plead my case. I lived in Italian Village since 2000, and I've been a good neighbor and I've done everything I could. I didn't want to avoid the permit process. I have no idea why I have windows in my house and you all don't have a permit. Unfortunately, I'm dependent upon the people that I hire to get permits before they do the work. It's been very difficult to get people to make repairs in my house, and I've had a lot of repairs to keep my house in shape. It's old. So I do my best to be a good neighbor. I didn't realize that the windows needed to be replaced until And actually, only one of the three needs to be replaced until December 23rd, and I had snow inside my window.
There you go. So, can we kind of walk you through the difficult situation that we're in that we have very specific, that we don't have there are some guidelines that are very up for our interpretation. This is not one of them. This is.
I understand that. I knew that coming in here.
Yeah,
I
that
just
makes
had to
it-
give it my best shot.
That makes it a tough one. Again, I can't advise you toward what you can do with universal windows. I don't know if they have other windows that aren't vinyl windows. I don't know what their business model is. But certainly, you know, if they couldn't get a permit for them, then they have essentially, in my opinion, not sold you anything you can use. And I'm not saying they should or should know better, but you know, I can't imagine that a company that large has never encountered another house in any of our historic districts, of which there are a lot of them. And this is pretty much a general standard. So one of the difficulties is that even in previous homes where it's been all vinyl, as people have even replaced one, we've had them go from the approved windows list. And we've tried to be very flexible about that. It's not like the old days where it's like you had to get a wood window. Like there's aluminum clad wood windows. It's all these things. And the real reason for it is because eventually, as those get replaced, even though it doesn't seem like it would make that much of a difference, the ones that we've approved do have a similar profile to the historic windows. And what we're really trying to do is so over time, houses don't kind of devolve into something non-historic in little tiny increments. It's like the old, whatever, you know, death by 1,000 cuts thing. It's like, well, one window, what's the difference? 10 windows, what's the difference? Aluminum siding, what's the difference? But then all of a sudden, you just get a whole house that doesn't look anything like the historic houses. So it's a little comfort to you right now that because we have these standards, we've actually had one of the highest escalating housing value areas in the city, in part because of a lot of things, but that's one of the reasons. That doesn't do you any good this year. It helps you when you want to sell your house, but it doesn't help you right now. So that's the problem. Now we do have an appeals process, and that is open to you as well. I just think it's probably going to be really tough for us to make that determination here that your particular case is different than any other case.
I appreciate your position and your honesty with me. My position is that when I wish to buy something, you have to just to have them agree to move forward with the process, you have to give them money. So, you know, I give them money, I own the windows, and I'm, you know, kind of stuck. I understand and I respect what your commission is trying to do in terms of maintaining the architectural integrity of Italian Village.
Yeah.
I also know I've lived there since 2000 and it's very, very different. And I walk through the neighborhood and I see many different kinds of windows and many different appearances. And I see modern buildings and I see a few old houses and I see, you know, huge apartments and condos and lots more people than there used to be. And it's hard for me. I can accept that you have these restrictions. It's just hard for me to see how my three little windows are going to impact the integrity of the architecture in Italian Village. I've had a lot of work done on my windows last year, and it's going to be a long time before I'll need more windows.
Yeah.
And
I get you. The problem is we haven't approved a vinyl window in so many years that anyone can then say, oh, apparently you're doing vinyl windows again now, you know, and that's the problem. Like your three windows, you're right, it's not gonna make a difference. It's the extrapolation of those three windows going
Other
forward.
developers.
I
that are-
understand
That
that.
want to do, you know, may want to restore a large old historic building, and then it's 50 or 100 windows, and then it's the whole block, and then.
I understand. I mean, I thought, well, maybe there's a 1 in a million chance I could be grandfathered in or something. All I can say is that, you know, I'm 76 years old. I've tried my damnedest to follow the rules in the neighborhood.
And I think that is a very valid appeal, which wouldn't come back to us. It goes through a different process. I can't remember how that process works, to be honest with you.
There's 3 different options and we can always send that additional information if it does progress to that point. But that is depending on how this occurs.
I'm trying to look, and it's not very easy on their website. They certainly have things that look like wood on their website, but they maybe just faux wood. And so I'm like trying to get a sense of on this website, if they have any wood windows at all. You know, because I think that could be an argument that we do have an approved set of windows and we try to stick very closely to those. That being said, if they were willing to swap out your credit for what you bought to another material, even if it wasn't officially approved by us, I think I would be a lot more open to allowing that to happen. But I just don't know. I can't tell their website. It's not particularly easy to use, I gotta say. A very catchy song, I know that.
So I think I support what Commissioner Sudi is saying. It's just it'd be a very bad thing for us to approve these here tonight. So the next step would be for us to deny approval, and then you could appeal. That's step one. We could certainly continue this, as Morgan mentioned at the beginning, very outset, which means we could just kick the can down the road for another month or two while perhaps you could contact Universal and see if you can do a swap and get some of your money back. But if it did go to appeals, they may allow you to use the vinyl windows based on hardship and other compelling reasons that you bring to them. But that is a different body than us here tonight.
I think. I don't think it comes back to us. And frankly, if you get those approved by the other body, we're not gonna be mad at you. It's just.
We get it.
Yeah, we get it. It's just hard because if we do it, then all of a sudden it opens the door for other people.
There are some people should know though.
The universal
Yeah,
windows people should know.
Yeah, this isn't the first time they've been there.
At this time, we don't review the financial hardship as well. This is just for design and per guidelines and code. So the appeal goes through that process, but we do not do that. Yes.
I'm not sure I understood what you just said.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Financial hardship is not something we review at this time. It's normally just typically designs and how it follows the guidelines and codes. So that's what
we do here at this.
Yes,
board.
at this board.
But if you go to an appeal, then you can say, hey, I spent this money, whatever the situation is, you can kind of lay it out for them and they have that ability to basically grant you an exception under a certain set of criteria that we just really don't have. Because we basically like, does it meet this set of standards or doesn't it? And if it doesn't, then we really can't approve it. But they have the leeway to do that.
Yeah, potentially.
And like I said, if they do, we never have to be mad.
If I had been told initially that the kind of windows I wanted to buy or have already paid for would not, be approved, I would never have gone down that road to begin with. I don't want to throw them under the bus.
No, it's their fault.
But since you've said,
It's
they
their
should
fault.
have known better. I don't know better.
Yeah, they're a big company and they work all over the city, and this is not unique to Italian Village. There are, German Village and Italian Village and Victorian Village. Like there's a lot of places. It's not, they should know.
Mhm.
It's the national advertising. And
Yeah.
They need to, I think you should, go back to them and say your salesperson didn't inform me that you was not going to get a permit before he took my money.
And that's that's the entire Italian Village. It's not like it's your house or your street, or it's everything in Italian Village. And it goes through Victorian Village, German Village, a lot of the districts. So there's no way that they haven't worked in these districts before. Or they've not been able to because they don't have the right product perhaps. So
Now, who is this committee that the appeal, by the way, it's nice to meet you, Mark.
Nice to meet you.
Who is the committee that this appeal would go to?
Typically for appeal, and there's 3 potential possibilities, and I cannot recall off the top of my head, and I apologize for both the commissioners and applicant, but it would go to boards of commission of appeal. So if it was denied this evening, depending, we would send the information in the letter, and then it could possibly go to the board of commission of appeals.
So you have a couple options today. We can continue this, which means nothing particularly happens right now. You can't move forward, but you're not moving back. And so that kind of buys you another month if you want to call them, see what you can do. Or we can move forward, and from what you've heard, that means we're probably going to not move in your favor. And that would allow you to get into the appeals process. But if you want to just, kind of, like you said, kick the can another month, that's fine too.
Well, now you lost me because I thought not doing anything for a month meant we would implement the appeals process.
Well, if we deny it, then you go to an appeal.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
can't tell me no today?
I'd have to tell you no for you to be able to appeal. Or we could continue it. And then basically you're just kind of in limbo, which means you have time to look at that. And, frankly, you can do that. You can do it 3 times. So, you could actually get 3 continuances in a row. And then at the end of that, then we would have to make some sort of determination.
So what exactly is it I need to do if I would at least take one more step, which would be appeal it? I assume that's something you could help me with.
Yes.
Yes, so I can help you with that after, depending on how this goes. If we do deny today, then I would help you through the steps and send you the information needed for appeals.
Yeah.
If we do continue, then that gives you time to talk to the representative or salesperson for Universal Windows or look into the other options for the approved Windows.
Yes.
Morgan would
And I would
validate when you call Universal Windows and say the commission is not going to accept these windows. You sold this client a product that was not approved and you weren't going to get a permit. You should have, not you, they should have known this and they misrepresented themselves to you.
Yeah, it's no different than if someone tried to, sell you a septic tank, and we don't allow septic tanks, we only allow sewers, so it's up to them, they shouldn't be able to sell you that. They shouldn't be able to keep your money for something that you're not able to install.
I've already told them I was disappointed that I didn't know that they weren't going to get a permit before I purchased the windows. I don't think I have any pull or any power with Universal Windows.
I hear you.
I'm not sure. They've told me, that my only option would be to just have the windows installed, permit or no permit.
And you're just gonna get into a whole other process, that you don't want to get into, so.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try to do what I was supposed to do the right thing, but I've invested a lot of money.
I hear you. So I guess it's up to you if you want to give it another shot, now that you've had our input and tell them what you've heard here. And, so that you have the backing of staff that, it's something that they should have known and didn't follow through on, or we can take an action tonight and then we can potentially move forward and go to appeal. So those are your 2 choices.
Well, and the appeal is something that can be accomplished in another month.
Potentially, there's, the letter that's submitted, and that's typically within 10 business days, and be receiving it for you to return the appropriate documentation to us to, proceed with the Board of Commissioner of Appeals. So it just depends on timing, also when they can meet. I'm not sure what their schedule is for Board of Commissioner of Appeals right now. I know that they're possibly down 1 seat at the moment and waiting for a new chair, I believe. So it might take longer, I'm not sure.
I have one other critical question. The fact that I've invested a good bit of money in Windows doesn't mean that I'm destitute and I'm on, at poverty level. You made it sound like, like I qualify for.
Oh, no.
One of the considerations is how much money you've invested
Yeah.
and I think the point is that there is a case to be made. We can't say what they're going to decide. But I believe that you did not come into this with some intent to try to trick us to get these windows.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what they're trying to understand. So.
We just, as the commission and as HPO staff, cannot review as an economic impositions for the review. So.
If you know less, it might save many other residents in the villages or in historic districts for them to know that they're going to get in trouble when they try to sell products that are not approved. So, be a pioneer. Let's take them on.
So would you prefer that we act today and vote on your application? Would you like to continue it for another month to kind of take some more time to decide what you want to do with that?
Well, I would prefer that you do whatever you need to do to allow me the time to work with Morgan to file an appeal.
Okay, so then let's make a motion then So does anybody care to
Move to continue.
No, she wants to move to the appeals process. So you'd like us to take a vote?
Whatever you need to do
Okay.
that would allow me to work with Morgan to file an
The-
appeal.
Okay.
The motion is that let's put their name in it, the Universal
Yeah.
Nation, is that?
Universal Windows Direct.
Windows Direct, are not appropriate and not approved.
Okay, so we have to make a motion in the positive. So the motion is to approve the 3 vinyl windows from Universal Windows Direct to be installed, correct?
Yes. Yes, that would be the,
But then why would they give her an appeal with that?
We have to say no.
We just have to say no.
So we shoot it down, but we normally
Yeah.
don't do negative.
No,
No,
we have to make it in the positive. We have to say
All right.
approve as proposed. Yeah, so is that the motion then?
Yes,
Okay. and-
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
no,
All in favor? Hold on. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye, so it fails and there are no abstentions.
unless you're unanimous.
So, yeah, so your motion has been denied, so now you can begin to work with Morgan on the appeals process and she can get you that information. So good luck with that.
and the only additional thing we'll need is the reasons for denial.
Yeah, so the reasons for denial are that it's a non-approvable window based on our guidelines. And we have, a long standard of not approving vinyl windows in historic homes. And
Her home is a
their
contributor.
home is a contributing structure, and let's also throw in for fun, that we believe that the Universal Windows Direct supplier had every reason they should understand that this was not an approvable window. It should have sought a permit in advance of selling you those windows, and that it is their fault that the reason you have those.
So you
windows.
misled the customer.
There was one, just for my information, there was one window, or at least one window that was a Universal Windows Direct window on the approved list.
Oh, good, that's great then. They can
So
switch.
possibly I could negotiate that they switch windows and apply what I've paid to an approved.
That's a great strategy.
Yeah.
Give that a
Take
shot.
a shot either way, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you for coming in. Hope you can make a later movie.
No, I don't think so. We already purchased our tickets.
Oh,
I got it
no,
all.
man, he's getting in these rep
Okay,
situations.
thank you
All right.
very much for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you.
Yeah, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay, one more. You guys can come on up. I have to abstain because I live really close to this. So I am not going to participate in this one, but I will get Shannon back in. So good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Just leave.
Because we're done, right? There's nothing else on the agenda, right?
No, not technically, it's just this conceptual and adjournment.
Adjourn. Yeah. Yes,
Wait a minute, what conceptual do we need your input on?
Well, this is it.
Or is this still conceptual?
Yeah, this is
Or you
the
talking-
first conceptual.
Okay, there's a second conceptual.
No, this is I believe this is the old. Yeah, 1059.
I'm staying. So
Okay.
you're in charge.
I think I believe the 15 minutes.
Are they sworn in?
No.
Raise your right hand. Say your names for the record.
Scott Barnhart. Gregory Gillis.
Swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability.
Yes.
Staff, construct 18 foot by 22 foot addition of existing single story addition, which was approved in 2007. Remove all wood siding on the main home and install new wood smart siding after addition is constructed. Construct a new 22 foot by 25 foot garage on rear property. Install new concrete pad 12 foot by 25 foot in front of garage between house and garage. Drain path to be installed between house and garage. Property was originally approved in 2001. To remove the non-contributing aluminum siding to expose the original wood siding underneath. The siding was then repaired and replaced if it were missing, damaged, or deteriorated, which included existing wood trim. All replacement pieces pieces to match the exact dimension and profile of existing. In February 2007, the property was approved to construct a new addition on the rear home with wood siding to match the existing property. Staff could not locate a COA after 2001 that indicated full siding replacement on the main, indicating any full siding replacement on the main property. According to Google Street View, it does appear the diagonal wood band between the first and second floor of the facade was removed and replaced between 2015 and 19. It was not approved at the time. Applicant initially reached out to HBO staff in December 2022 to replace roofing, constructing a garage and second-story addition. Applicant was approved for roofing replacement, but was incomplete for the addition portion of the application. Staff notified the applicant that they would need the following information to be considered a complete application: photos of all elevation, detailed photos of the deteriorating siding and wood trim to evaluate the condition, cut sheets of the proposed wood siding replacement, paint colors, elevation drawings for the garage in addition to include all materials being proposed, as well as detailed site plan. When submitting the requested materials, staff found the information to be complete for consent for review by the commission. At the main business meeting, commissioners made the following requests and comments. Commissioner Fergus recommended a site visit in order for staff to evaluate the condition of the siding. Commissioner Goodman said he supports with the conceptual addition, but the commission will need to discuss the following further at the hearing: height of addition to main structure, elevation, details, and how the garage concrete patio area will impact the yard itself. Commission requested the following: provide additional information on lot coverage and to contact building and zoning services to see if any variances are needed. Measurements would be included in the drawing and to add the other outside elevation to the drawings. Commissioners recommended the applicant look into more pervious material, low concrete, and typically recommend an offset of the addition to the existing structure to allow the corners of the main structure to be exposed in order to differentiate the two portions. Overall, staff would be in support of a second-story addition on the 2007 edition, as well as a garage in the rear. HBO staff does have concern with the following design elements: the height and connection of the second-story addition, primary structure, the amount of concrete proposed in the site plan, and proposed removable siding. Staff recommends applicant refer to City Code 3112.12, new construction, and Italian Village Guidelines, page 15, site work and landscaping, page 40, garages and outbuildings, and page 52, new construction. Additionally, applicant should contact building and zoning services to see if variances will be needed for new construction. And we will request applicant to clarify the width of the alley to determine if 2 garage doors would be appropriate or if 1 door is needed. If 1 door is needed, staff would recommend a single door to have the appearance of 2 separate doors. Commissioners could offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal, and no action is required.
David?
We let them,
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
What?
let's let them,
Yeah, you guys can go first.
It's my first time, so I'm not sure how that works, but I can say that the consideration for the purpose of material, we're just removing the concrete patio altogether. That was changed and submitted. There is already an offset on the corners for the 2007 edition. It was offset by, I don't know, 6 inches, but there was some type of offset that's already there to show the corners. So we'll just be continuing that one directly up. And the goal is to, to tie in to make it look original like the other house on the block in the section, to look original, tie into the roof, keep the slopes.
Oh, and I'm Scott Barnard, Finance Construction. So what we originally did was, we're gonna change the softscape on the back. We originally had a concrete pad that was in front of the garage, then we took it off, submitted them drawings. And, I think that we did get approval for the roof and we wanted to see if we can get that started while we work on getting the rest of the stuff that you guys wanted from us.
Yes. The roof has already been approved by staff, so yeah, you can proceed on that. It's just the addition and the garage that are up for.
Thank you.
So they're going to bring more information to us.
yeah,
No, everything's been submitted.
well, you don't have elevations drawn, so that's what's,
All that should have been, it's been submitted.
Yeah, you got the elevation drawings and my.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
show us, you,
yeah, there were drawings submitted today, but that was past the deadline of May 3rd, so they were not able to be included on this material packets. So we have what was previously submitted that was seen during the business meeting. And that was sent an email this morning.
Last week.
Yeah, I did.
We didn't receive it until 4 a.m. this morning.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
actually, it would be actually a little bit useful for the discussion, for this conceptual discussion, to look at the previously approved drawings, because there were some good elevations drawn and it can give us some places to provide some visual cues.
And the other ones were 2009 wasn't us.
Yeah, I know, but it just like right there.
Yeah.
So, what I just started seeing in your drawings, I'm not seeing this gable, and it looks like you're trying to extend the roof over. And
Yep.
obviously that, but you're not representing what's going on in the middle and.
It would remain, yeah, everything would remain.
And what's gonna be important is how you interpret these window openings and the trim, the overhangs and the soffit, the pitch of the roof. These are things that are gonna be super important in your
Gutters.
the gutters, the style of,
K-cells on now, but I submitted for,
bursts and so forth.
yeah, half round, yeah.
So let's, I wish that you had submitted those elevations earlier. It's hard to digest these things.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I thought they were submitted last Wednesday, so.
And so that's going to be the first and most important part of our review next.
Back to what did come in at 4 in the morning.
We don't have those provided at this time, since it was past the deadline. We're not gonna be including them. Those are our packets.
But as far as you're saying, that just there's interest in replacing the roof, and we can approve.
That's
or
already
actually, that's a staff.
Yes.
money.
So they, back in December 2022, they applied for the roof shingle replacement and then the addition and garage. The roof shingle has been already approved for replacement. And it's from the approved shingle list. It's just the addition and garage that is up for design discussion.
So is there anything that we can discuss today without those? I think that we just have to continue the application.
Do we want to talk about materials for replacing? Was there anything in the application talking about what, how the siding repairs and the various window details are going to be repaired?
I believe that.
Yeah, so we sent out a whole list of all the materials that were being used, and we pulled everything off of your guys' approved book guideline. We actually did a printout of them, and I approved all the materials off of that.
Okay, so are those called out on your drawings?
Yeah, the only thing that wasn't is the smart siding. I think that I gotta send you guys a specification on it to see if you guys will let that.
What's smart siding?
Engineer wood.
Is it LP smart siding that you're referring to?
Yeah.
LP, the composite,
There's like another hardy. But
yes.
Is that unapproved material for us?
It is not, but there has been, I believe, approval in the past of LP smart side. But it's not from, it's not at the, I guess, approval record of Hardy Plank or Rural at this time.
Okay, yeah, but it's a newer material, right?
It's a newer material.
In the painting, so we did all the colors that we were allowed to use, and we submitted the drawing of all the paint schemes that we were gonna use on the building too.
Okay.
And is there anything in the garage that conceptually, mass-wise, and the renderings that we can convey?
You said that we're waiting to figure out if it should have 2 doors or 1 door?
Yes, so, for the site plan and for the alley width, there's a certain width that needs to be.
I guess, yeah, all my neighbors would be 1 door, so I guess we'll come back with that.
Alley lighting, gooseneck lamp or something over the garage doors needs to be discussed to us. I don't understand this detail. I mean, this is like a cartoon of not what you would build actually. The way the intersections of the horizontals over here to the verticals over on the other side. We need real drawings. Let's just.
They have.
We don't have them, so this is wasting time.
So the only thing I'll add to that is that I'm hoping that there will be windows in the doors, but
And we're back.
it's not required, but just, it's
Gutter
really
issues.
gutters, downspouts, corner trim.
So on the windows on the garage, I don't think that they're allowed, right?
Because of their.
Because of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
they're-
So same as all the other garages in my
It's the
neighborhood.
Exact same as the previous 3 neighbors he has. We're not doing anything different.
Because the setback of the garage is less than 5 feet.
Correct.
So I think that you all can move forward with the roof. And then we'll review the new materials at the next business meeting, which is in 2 weeks.
Okay. So should I resubmit the material list?
Yes, so since this is a conceptual application, you'll need to submit a new COA, and then you can submit the updated drawings from there. And the material list and things of that nature, and we can determine if it's at the point to be reviewed as an action item, or if it would still be conceptual.
Okay, so the material list I sent, probably a couple months ago, I have to resubmit that one too?
We can probably find that. I thought I included it in the material packets, but additionally, we'll want that material list to be included on the elevation drawings, noting out what the materials will be, on those
Same with
lot
the
drawings.
paint schemes.
And paint as well, you know, specifications of the doors, the garage doors, and sorry for overlooking pictures.
The only thing I'm gonna add is that you need a site plan to, because are you guys gonna be asking for a variance on setback with this garage being too
Lot
close?
coverage.
No.
Well, in any case, a site plan is gonna help us make sure that we understand where the, property lines are and where the footprints of your garage. Garage is new, right?
Yes.
Garage is
So, you know, where the foundation sits.
Okay, and
Skip to this.
apartment on the garage, 2nd-story apartment?
Is it approved?
No.
You can.
Yeah.
It's plausible,
It's plausible, yeah, absolutely.
as long as it's architecturally appropriate.
Okay.
additionally, the siding is going to be replaced, correct? That's for the whole property.
Yes, so last time I was here, they said that they were gonna do a site visit to see if it was original, and
That was never confirmed by you or the owner?
I'm the owner.
Oh, hello, sorry.
Yeah,
It's not confirmed to schedule a site visit with us after the business meeting feedback. So if we would like to, under commissioners.
Schedule that, because my understanding of the email was that it was happening, so.
yeah, that's what I
Oh,
thought. too.
yeah, no, we need
And that was
confirmation
your
from
Wednesday.
the
Yep.
owner and the applicant to schedule.
Okay,
So
that's
we
why I
will do
came.
that.
All right, well, so that happens, and I think we're near the end of our input here.
Yep.
Yeah, they really just need to know where to go on the siding and the garage, and we can get those details, so we can schedule a site visit, so we can get that moving.
Yeah, I'll send an email to you, Briggs.
Okay, yep. Okay.
As well, and we can schedule it from there.
All right, thank you.
So,
Very good. Thanks for the long evening. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, but.
Yeah,
Yeah, just want a couple of questions so we can know where to go, so thank you very much.
we'll send this feedback as well.
right.
Appreciate it.
All right, do we have any other business?
No, that is all for today.
I move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So adjourned.